Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call back into open session this meeting of the Arlington ISD Independent School District Board of Trustees at 7:11 p.m. on February 5th, 2015. I want to thank everyone for coming out to be with us this evening. We will start our meeting with the opening ceremony. Please join Dr. Reishan in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, would you please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to avoid disruptions to those around you during the meeting? And now, if you would, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, if you can't tell from these lovely students in front of us, we're going to have our student performance of the evening. And first up to perform for us tonight, and when you guys are done, don't leave. I got some words to say about you. We have our Gunn Junior High School Choir. Take it away, please. Thank you so much. Ms. Myers, congratulations on a wonderful group, and to the students, outstanding. I wouldn't have said you were a junior high choir, so I'm really impressed with you right there. Let me brag on this group of young ladies and Miss Myers for just a minute on this Gunn Junior High School choir. This is a select group from Gunn Junior High, if you can't tell, from their varsity women's choir under the direction of Miss Karen Myers. Miss Myers has been the director at Gunn for 12 of its 36 years history. Under her leadership, the program's grown by 35%, consistently earned Superior 1 ratings at UIL concert and sight reading competitions, and they've had great success placing students in Region 5, all region, and all city choirs. You have a wonderful choir with beautiful voices. Thank you so much for the performance tonight. Thank you. Good job. See, you're glad I didn't sing with you. I understand how it is. I know. No, Miss Myers, we don't want me singing with this group at all. You sound good, and I don't want to ruin your 12 years of 36. It's perfect, so thank you. You ready? I'm looking at our student of the month. Next, we get to come to a great part of the evening where we get to recognize, each month the board gets to recognize one student to represent the 65,000 students here in the AISD Board of Trustees as the student of the month. And this month, I would ask you to please come join us. Noella Garcia from Newcomer Center. Please come up here and stand while we get a brag on you. See, it's fun standing in front of everyone, right? It's good to be recognized in this, Sarah. So, Noella is a shining example. Let's read a second about what caused Noella to get this award. Noella is a shining example of what a successful student at Newcomer Center looks like. Even though English is not your first language, she's very focused on being educationally successful, learning English as a second language. And she does this with a smile on her face and a cheerful hello for every student. Noella's friendly, helpful, dependent, passionate about learning, always willing to help a fellow student. She's a superb role model at Newcomer Center and consistently sets a great example for all the students. She never backs down or shies away from any academic challenge and excels academically. Newcomer Center is such a great program. You're one of the shining examples, so it's very proud to honor you. Is there anything you'd like to say? We always take words of advice, and also anyone you'd like to introduce that's here with you tonight.
Okay, so good night, everyone. It's an honor to me to be here to receive this amazing prestige. At first, I want to recognize my whole family who's always encouraged me to try my best, to set me some goals and then demolish them, to challenge myself, and too many other things that they inspire me. Next, I want to recognize my Newcomer Center teachers. They are like, I couldn't be here without their help. Thanks for all the patience that they have to explain us over and over again. But they are not just simple teachers. They are also like our friends. They're always helping us when we have hard times. And of course, I want to say thanks to all of you. That's so important to me to receive this award. It's like, it's amazing. I think I could realize my dream to be a pediatrician, and I feel so proud of myself, and I want to encourage all the newcomer students to try their best and never give up. The hardest part is just the beginning, then you just keep following. And thank you.
Wonderful. Very nicely said. With a 6-month-old, I'd trust you as my pediatrician. Go to med school first, but then we'll trust you as our pediatrician. At this time, to honor you, Dr. Vassos would like to come down and give a token of our appreciation at this distinct honor.
Okay.
A plaque on behalf of the board for Student of the Month, and also at any time the board is only allowed to give out these board pins, the representative of outstanding work in the district. You can wear this wherever you want. You can put it on your badge. You can wear it every day, or you can put it on your bag, whatever you'd like. So congratulations. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Up next is our Community Engaged for Excellence Award, where we get to honor one organization, not every month when it's needed, which is a great thing to be able to recognize our partners in the community. And tonight, the group we get to recognize is the Arlington Alliance for Youth, and representing them is Mr. Craig White's the president. Please, Craig, come on up while we talk about you. I know a lot about this group, so it's nice to be able to talk about you. Since 2005, the Arlington Alliance for Youth is composed of youth advocates in Arlington and has helped mobilize both citizens and key agencies around the 5 promises embraced by America's Promise. These 5 promises encourage communities to support their youth by providing caring adults, safe places with structured activities, healthy start and lifestyles, effective education, and opportunities for community service. In supporting these promises, the Alliance offers a small grants program that provides supports to adults that want to work with youth or service-oriented projects. Projects that are considered for grants include academic or life skills development, community service projects, and semester service projects. Over the past 10 years, the Alliance has distributed over $60,000 in grant funding. In support of Global Youth Services Day, the Alliance encourages the formation of youth coalitions to work on community service projects. All youth are recognized at a city thank you celebration held in April. Special recognition is given to the Best Service Project of the Year and Arlington's Youth Service Leader of the Year. The Alliance joins in the collaborative effort with AISD, City of Arlington, University of Texas Arlington, the Star-Telegram, and First Rate Inc. The Arlington Alliance for Youth supports the Extra Mile Award also. This award recognizes 6 servant leaders along with 6 runners-up that serve on staff or volunteer to help our youth develop and mature. All nominees are honored at a luncheon held in April. In supporting our students' quest for higher education, the Alliance awards the Jerry Cooper Service Learning Scholarship. This $500 scholarship is awarded to a high school graduating senior whose spirit of service has positively impacted the Arlington community. By uniting youth advocates under the 5 promises, the Arlington Alliance for Youth provides direct support opportunities to students and staff of Arlington ISD. And we couldn't do it without partners like you to assist in the community. So at this time, Craig, congratulations, and is there anyone you'd like to introduce and a few words to say?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank the district for this honor, and I would like to recognize a few members of the board that were able to be present tonight. Starting at the very end here, we have Lieutenant Carol Riddle. We have Wendy, go ahead and stand up. We have Wendy Carrington. We have Sheila Sutton. We have Stephanie Brown. We have Cheryl Carpenter and Amira Jami. And these represent just some of the members of the board. We're grateful for the opportunity to work in the city of Arlington and grateful, looking forward to a long and lasting relationship and continue to support this community.
That's what we love to hear, long and lasting relationships.
Yes.
We appreciate all the work and we look forward to all the work in the future. It's critical. At this time, please let Dr. Cavazos and I come down and recognize all of this group down here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have more? I thought you grabbed more. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Cheryl. All right, now let's scooch in. Ready, Wendy, scooch in. There we go. There we go. Can you get us all? Yep. Carol,
Yep.
over on this side?
You got me behind Sheila? Right here? Okay.
Here we go. Okay. At this time, we will go into a presentation of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to our appointments. We'll do that, and then we'll do the appointments right afterwards. So please bear with us for a few more minutes. But up next is the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee final report on 2009 bond package. A recognizable face, and one of our lovely students there also, Ms. DeKine. At this time, the chair of the CBOC, Ms. Jeannie DeKine, does present. Jeannie, good evening.
Good evening. I have an assistant with me for the first couple of minutes, and I promised I would hold her hand until
Okay.
it was time for her to sit down, so we may kind of fumble through this as I'm
Perfect.
one-handed at this point. President Hogg, members of the board, Superintendent Cavazos, it is my honor to speak on behalf of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and present our final report on the 2009 bond program. And I saw one member, Walter. Is there anybody? Oh, there are some people in the back. If you are a member of the CBOC, please raise your hand. Thank you for your service. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee was established to provide transparency and enhance public confidence in the use of the proceeds from the sale of the bonds authorized in the 2009 bond election. As part of our charge, the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee makes findings and recommendations to the Board of Trustees relating to the expenditure of the bond funds authorized by AISD voters on November 3rd, 2009. Additionally, the CBOC is charged with monitoring the progress of the 2009 bond program, as well as finding ways the district can maximize the potential of the 2009 bond program so that our children and the taxpayers receive the best outcomes for their dollars. We represent all students, school campuses, and taxpayers within the boundaries of AISD, and cumulatively over the last 5 years, 30 members have served on the CBOC. The names of some of the most important participants in this process I wanted to highlight are not actually listed here. And those are the AISD staff, without whom this committee would not have been able to execute our charge. A special thank you goes to Cindy Powell, Jeremy Earnhardt, Tim Collins, James Smith, Chad Branham, Barb Carlisle, Tony Dollinger, Javier Fernandez, Mandy Moore, and the other staff who supported the CBOC during the last 5 years. The current committee met 3 times since our last board update in June. The June meeting focused on project updates and site progress at Rankin Elementary School. The September meeting focused on classroom additions, cafeteria upgrades, and drop-off improvements at Blanton Elementary School. And the December meeting highlighted final project updates from the 2009 bond program. $197.5 million worth of expenditures related to transportation, fine arts, technology, and facilities were recommended in the 2009 bond program. And as of February of this year, this project is concluding with a $5.2 million surplus. This is where Libby DeKine comes in. Okay, you want to present that to them? You take it up there. At the conclusion of this 5th and final year of the 2009 AISD bond program, oh, I didn't know she was going up there. That's what happens when I don't give specific instructions. I apologize.
I think it's a great idea. She's coming up here.
She's got initiative.
Our newest trustee.
The CBOC has issued straight A's to the district staff Oh, hey.
Now, Jeannie, that's the way to get some press right there.
All right.
That's,
So I told her to take the report card up and then go sit down in a chair, and
Well.
she found a chair. All right, good times. You want to come back down now? So we would like to present that to you as your official report card for the 2009 AISD bond program. Yeah, parent signature. Let's look at the progress in each area in more detail. Transportation. All 120 buses funded in the 2009 bond program have been ordered and received. Of note, tremendous cost savings against the projected expense was made thanks to rebates of almost $2.3 million. Fine arts. Requests totaling $2 million for instruments, equipment, and uniforms have been submitted by the schools, and all funds authorized for fine arts for the 2009 bond program are expended or encumbered. Pictures here are just a few of many examples of band instruments, orchestra instruments, and new uniforms that our students now utilize across the district. For technology, there's no change from our last update to the board. All funds authorized for technology for the 2009 bond program are expended or encumbered. For facilities, all 2014 projects, with the exception of projects at Martin High School and Webb Elementary School, are substantially complete. Only minor punch list work and submission of closeout documents remain open. Martin High School return air duct replacement and electrical panel project will actually be combined with condition improvement work that is included in the 2014 bond program. An overview of the facilities projects. Of note, Ashworth, Beebensee, Beckham, Barry, Bryant, Bergen, Crouch, Hale, Larson, Percy, and 2 projects at West were deemed not necessary, as well as 2 projects at Martin High School, which was deferred to the 2014 program. For facilities project highlights, new construction projects included 2 science labs at the high schools, the new Adams Elementary School, classroom additions at Lamar High School, cafeteria expansion and classroom addition at Arlington High School, and classroom additions at Blanton, Knox, and Rankin. Security upgrades benefited every school in the district and included installation of keyless entry systems at all schools, implementation of visitor management systems at all schools, and camera and buzzer systems at all elementary schools. The pictures here represent just a few of the major construction projects across the district during the course of the 2009 bond program. The upper left depicts one of the new science labs at the high schools. The upper right is the front entrance at Adams Elementary School. The lower left depicts the new Arlington High School cafeteria. And the lower right is the new front entrance and remodeled facade at Lamar High School. In addition to accruing a surplus of over $5 million, there were a number of additional facilities projects accomplished during this bond. These were critical improvements that were not included in the original scope of the bond that were encountered as emergent needs or opportunities for cost savings. The committee would like to highlight this list of additional projects as a standout benefit to the entire district. Some of our committee lessons learned. The support from the district staff just cannot be overstated. They answered every question, provided every piece of data we asked for, stayed later after every meeting. They were creative in their solutions. They went above and beyond to educate us about the projects and made us more informed stewards of our school district. Holding meetings at the various project sites not only allowed the committee to see the progress of the bond program, but allowed us to receive firsthand feedback from the school administrators and teachers hosting the meetings. Mid-bond program, the staff introduced summary reports by area which significantly improved the committee's ability to assess important trends and areas of progress and procedure. The accompanying backup data was very helpful in identifying site-level issues. Our recommendations for future CBOCs include the following. There's a tremendous amount of work that's accomplished between each meeting. This is even more relevant to larger bond programs. Communication of project completion is critical to helping maintain the community's understanding of the work being done across the district. To that end, we recommend the inclusion of a district communications specialist in the meetings to help drive consistent messages to the community about that progress. The district staff did an excellent job of providing an overview of the bond program to new members during annual orientations. Since staggered terms are a component of the committee, we recommend an overview of projects or issues to date to assist in onboarding members who enter the committee at various phases of the bond program. And finally, the open discussion time of the agenda that the committee took to discuss the bond project often proved to be the most helpful in generating recommendations or solutions to issues not addressed in the initial scope of the bond. Some of these discussions included recommendations for a number of the additional facilities projects that were completed above and beyond the original bond. On behalf of the 30 members who have served the District's Citizens Bond Oversight Committee over the last 5 years, thank you so much for including us in the process of building better schools and helping to create a better community through the 2009 bond program. Subject to your questions.
Mr. Kine, let me just start off and say thank you so much for your service as chair and those that have served as chairs before you. It's been a long process of a committee. It's a lot of work, and it's there to ensure everything's being done properly when the citizens trust us on a bond election. It's just another layer that we've put in place to assure that's done. So I thank you for your service. I know it's some late nights when you're doing that review, and I thank you and the entire committee for all your work on that time. At this time, is there any questions from colleagues? Dr. Rush?
Jeannie, thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all the past chairs of this committee, and to our 2 members that are here, thank you for being here, and all the others that are not. We can't do this without you. Our focus is to do what we can to make sure that we do everything right. And I appreciate your positive comments about the staff. They have continued to do an excellent job in being as transparent as we want them to be, which is full, open, everything. We really appreciate the public's trust in approving bond packages. We really appreciate you as community members taking all the time that you took to go through the huge learning curve of what it is as far as all the bond process and projects, and to stay engaged and to work all those late nights after your day jobs, et cetera. I can't thank you enough for that work. You've set this was the first time we've done this, and this is a great foundation for our 2014 CBOC now going forward, and your recommendations that you put up here tonight are, I know, already being implemented for the new committee. So we really appreciate that. 5 years, it's a long time. There was uncharted territories that you ventured into. That we haven't done this before. I really appreciate what you did. I think everybody did a wonderful job. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This time, thank you so much, Mr. Kine, and thank you for all your hard work. At this time, we'll move to appointments. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg. I'd like to recommend that the board appoint the individuals discussed in closed session for Area Superintendent Elementary, Principal of Crow Elementary, Principal of Timber Oaks Elementary, Assistant Principal for Arlington High, Barnett Junior High, Ellis Elementary, and Assistant Principal for Key, as discussed in closed session.
At this time, I'd accept the motion.
I move that we accept the recommendations by the Central Administration.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hibbs and a second by Ms. Payne. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 7 trustees present, 7 trustees voting in the affirmative. You have been approved. At this time, Dr. Cavazos, would you please introduce?
Thank you, President Hogg. And first, I'd like to introduce our new area superintendent, Dr. Christy Buell. Dr. Buell attended Texas A&M University. There's always a pause for that. Also East Texas State University, where she received her Master of Education, and A&M Commerce for her doctorate in educational administration. Most recently, principal at Mary Moore Elementary, has been an executive director of school leadership, has been an executive leadership coach and principal coach, has been a principal and director of training and design, and has been an assistant principal. Dr. Buell, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say?
Yes, please. First of all, just good evening, President Hogg, school board members, and Dr. Cavazos. It's a real privilege to be here tonight, and I just can't thank you enough. I want to express my gratitude for being offered this position. It's just a true honor to represent Arlington ISD and to be selected to serve in this leadership capacity and work with such an outstanding district. I'm so proud of the vision that we have for Arlington ISD, for inspiring our students, growing our leaders, and engaging our community. We're fortunate to have such a visionary superintendent, and every time I work with him and have the opportunity to just hear from him, I'm inspired by the vision that he has for our district, and it just truly is an honor. And then to work with such an award-winning school board. It's just an incredible opportunity, so thank you. We just have a dynamic leadership team in our district, and it just truly is a team that is dedicated to do whatever it takes for the children of Arlington. It's a great time to be a part of Arlington ISD, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that we're doing to guarantee the success of each and every student in our district every day. I greatly appreciate the opportunity I've had to provide the leadership at Moore Elementary. I want to thank the staff, the community, parents, and students that have supported me there. I know you will continue to be a school of excellence, and I look forward to continuing the support to support your success in my new role. I eagerly anticipate working collaboratively with the senior staff and the board, the principals, teachers, and community, and other departments as we work to further achieve the goals that have been established by the strategic plan of the district. By working together, I know we will continue the momentum that has been established in the district and move to even higher levels of success. This is an exciting time to be in Arlington ISD because of the great things that are happening, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. You have my commitment to strive for excellence in all that I do as a member of the leadership team and always put children first. I'm so excited to have this opportunity and just want to extend my sincere appreciation. I would also like to take this opportunity to just thank my family, my husband Greg and my son Chandler. Mackenzie couldn't be here tonight because she's in high school and practicing. I didn't want to pull her out of that, but I want to thank her as well because I couldn't be the administrator I am and give of my time without the support of my family. But thank you. I also want to just thank Dr. Cavazos, who's been a great leader for me so far, and Dr. Wirtz. Just thank them for seeing the leader in me. Thank you again for this incredible opportunity. I'm really proud to be a part of Arlington ISD.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the principal for Crow Elementary School, Ms. Jamie McDougall. Jamie attended Stephen F. Austin, received her Bachelor of Arts, attended Texas Wesleyan University for Administration and Dual Language Education Masters. Most recently, an assistant principal in Irving ISD, has been an instructional specialist, has been a bilingual elementary teacher, and has been a volunteer coordinator. Jamie, congratulations. Welcome to Arlington. Anything you'd like to say?
Good evening. How are you? Good evening, School Board President, Mr. Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, and members of the school board. I want to begin by thanking you for the tremendous honor of leading Crow Elementary. I truly believe that it's a privilege to get to serve in this capacity. I'd also love to introduce you to my family. Sitting right back there, my husband Kyle serves as a school counselor in Brown Elementary in Irving. He's a fantastic dad to our two boys in the calm and the storm. Our older son Reed is 4 and attends pre-K. He's at the age of 1,000 questions and wants to know how it all works. The other day we were in the car and we were talking about how the sun, it looks like the sun goes down, but really it's just that the earth rotates. And he thought for a minute and said, "Mom, I get to go upside down." And then he proceeded the next morning to run in and tell me all the things that had gotten to go upside down. The bed got to go upside down. Your car got to go upside down. The dog. So lots of questions. Our younger son, Ethan, is living up to his full reputation of being the second born. He keeps us on our toes on a regular basis. He's only 2, but don't tell him that because he's convinced he's much, much bigger. I'd like to say thank you to my husband for his support and for his encouragement. I couldn't do this without you. I'd also like to say thank you to my extended family for coming tonight to support me, and to my parents for teaching me that if you have integrity, nothing else matters. And if you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. Patty Bustamante, it has been an honor to work for you for the last 3 years. Thank you for providing an amazing example of leadership, dedication, positivity, and faith. I'm so blessed to have your example to carry forward into the next phase. I only stand here before you because people have invested in me, and it's my true privilege and honor to get to invest in other people. To Ms. Swig, thank you for taking on the role of interim principal and carrying the torch for the past several months. To the staff of Kerr Elementary, I'm excited to meet you. I'm excited to get to know you. I've checked out pictures on the website and read a little bit about you, but I'm really excited to have this opportunity. I'll work hard to earn your trust and your respect. In closing, thank you for the faith that you've placed in me and providing me this opportunity. Henry Ford once said, "Coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success." I look forward to working with all of you to ensure success. Let's go, Cougars.
I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Melinda. Are you here, Melinda? I don't know if I can see you, but thank you, Melinda, for serving as interim at Crow. We appreciate your service there. Nick? Yeah. Next, I'd like to introduce the principal for Timber Oaks Elementary School, Mr. Matthew Brown, or Matt. Congratulations, Matt. And Timber Oaks is our newest elementary, and that doesn't have a name yet, but it's off of Timber Oaks, so that's why we call it Timber Oaks.
That's right.
Matt attended University of Texas at Arlington to obtain his Bachelor of Arts, and University of Phoenix for his Master of Ed in Ed Administration and Supervision. Most recently, the principal at Remenzi Elementary, has been an assistant principal at Miller, has taught 1st grade, 4th grade, and 6th grade at Larson Elementary. Matt, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you very much, President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board. I just appreciate so much the opportunity to serve in this capacity at Timber Oaks Elementary. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm so excited to get started on those intricate details in setting up a brand new school, so thank you for that. I want to assure you that I'm up for the challenge, and I'm going to do everything I can to ensure a very successful year and years to come at Timber Oaks. I first want to thank my Heavenly Father for the opportunities and the blessings that He continues to provide for me each and every day. I'd like to introduce my wife, Jennifer, who is the principal at home, and honestly, you know, I don't know how she manages the 3 behind me, but they're really loud today, so I'm sorry. But you know, she just gives me that opportunity to pull late nights and do the things I need to do to give 100% to the kids at Remenzi and all the kids in AISD. I could not do it without her, so thank you, babe, for that. Also, my son, my oldest, Blake, my daughter, Addison, and then the littlest, Caden. Also have with me my mother and my father, who have really, from a very early age, you know, just solidified the importance of education and hard work. There are a few other people in the room that I want to thank. Sam Nix, Aaron Perales, and John Wofford for being the 3 amigos that always consistently talk to me and work me through problems and help me grow. Jeannie Paul Turner for seeing an administrator in me 14 years ago. Dr. Stephen Wirtz for mentoring me over the past year and a half. And Dr. Hobrick for just believing in my abilities to serve in this capacity at Timber Oaks. I also want to thank the staff and the students, the parents and the community at Remenzi Elementary. They have grown with me. They believed in me from the beginning. We have, grown and just worked through all kinds of challenges. And it really is an innovative place to work and to go to school. And the kids are so fortunate and they're so talented and they have incredible staff to work with. And so I'm very proud of them and what they accomplish. Finally, I want to say thank you to my friend and colleague, my assistant principal, Selena Ozun. I don't know if she made it or not because she was doing math night. But from the day she walked on the campus, she was a huge asset to the staff, students, and parents. She's intelligent, collaborative, supportive each and every day, and I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for her support. And I'm so excited that she accepted that job 3 years ago. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be a great year, so thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new assistant principal for Arlington High School, Mr. Jason Fitzgerald. Jason attended the University of Texas at Arlington to receive his Bachelor of Arts, University of Texas at Arlington for his Master of Education. Most recently, the assistant principal at Bailey Junior High School, and has taught social studies at Arlington High School. Jason, congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos, Board President Hogg, and members of the board. I want to start off by thanking Mr. Dalla and Arlington High School for this opportunity. I also want to thank all the Colts that made it out tonight. It really means a lot to me. Next, I'd love to thank Tiffany Benavides and Rana Peterman and all of my Bailey family over here. It's been special, and it's been a tremendous honor to serve the students and staff and that family at Bailey over the last couple of years. It's a special place, and I couldn't have done it without such a great crew over there. I guess most importantly, I need to thank my wife, Jenny, back here. I can't forget about her. She's fantastic. She supports me in all the late nights and gets to just let me come home and set sometimes. So she's fantastic, and I just love her being her. So thank you, Jenny. I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm humbled for the opportunity. And just one last thing, kick 'em Colts.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new assistant principal for Barnett Junior High School, Ms. Shantae Mackey.
Thank you. Good evening.
Shantae attended Alcorn State University, received her Bachelor of Science in Health Science, Concordia University for her Master of Education in Educational Administration, most recently a science teacher at Seguin High School, and has substitute before and has also taught science in Dallas ISD. So, Shantae, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say?
Thank you. Thank you. President Hogg, award-winning, outstanding members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos, I humbly stand before you tonight with excitement and joy, which warrants me to give all the honor and glory to God. To Ms. Hawthorne, Ms. Wilmot Sonato, and Dr. Cavazos, thank you for your confidence in me. I am truly committed to serve the faculty, the staff, students, parents, and the community at Barnett Junior High. Please allow me a moment to thank the people who has inspired me along my journey. Mr. Hill, your empathy and wisdom has taught me how important it is to be considerate of others. To Mr. Nix, his transparency, consistency, and the ability to engage the community has inspired me to continue to be dedicated. To Ms. Pride, her persistence and determination has taught me to never give up. To my family and friends, their undying support has taught me the importance of values. Last but not least, to the entire Seguin Nation, I have truly enjoyed my time spent there. Life provides us with opportunities every day to grow and to help the people around us grow. Throughout your journey, you may experience obstacles and setbacks, but don't give up. Continue to move towards your dreams and set many goals for yourself. Then once you succeed, because you will succeed, ask yourself, what can you do today that will positively impact the life of someone else? Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Principal for Ellis Elementary School, Mr. Adam Bell. Adam attended Midwestern State University, received his Bachelor of Arts in English, University of Texas at Arlington for his Master of Education Ed Leadership. Most recently, an ESL and Pre-AP English teacher at Everman High School, has taught English in Hillsborough High School, and has been a project manager for communities and schools. Adam, congratulations. Welcome to Arlington. Anything you'd like to say?
President Hogg, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, thank you. This is truly an honor and a privilege to be welcomed to your district and to serve as an assistant principal at Ellis Elementary. Mrs. Traylor, there you are. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to the Ellis family. This is just very exciting. My beautiful bride, no bias, but beautiful bride of 10 years, right here, Miss Alyssa Bell, so also a teacher. My two children who are at home right now being watched by the in-laws, Alexander, who's 4, and my daughter, Anastasia, who's 2. And I wanted to give a special thanks to all my students. They've inspired me to keep on going in education. They've truly transformed me as a human being. And last but not least, I'd like to give thanks to God. Without faith, I wouldn't have the strength to be an impact on our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And last but certainly not least, our new assistant principal for Key Elementary School, Ms. Tracy Turner. Tracy attended East Texas State University, obtained her Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Education, University of Texas at Arlington for her Master of Education for Ed Leadership. Most recently, a third grade teacher at Ashworth Elementary, a first grade teacher prior to that at Ashworth, and has also taught first grade at Wimbish. Tracy, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say?
Thank you. President Hogg, award-winning members, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Cavazos. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to serve as the Assistant Principal of Key Elementary. I am truly honored and humbled to have been chosen for this position. I would first like to introduce my family, my parents, Rick and Mary Surratt, my husband, Jermillion Turner, Jarek, JC, and Jackson, our 3 children. Without their support and encouragement, this would not be possible this evening. I would also like to thank Rhonda Greer, principal of Ashworth Elementary. Her support is beyond words. I cannot say. I would not be standing here without her support and her guidance and her leadership over the last years. I appreciate everything, and she thinks she's losing me, but she's really not. I'll have her on speed dial. Also to my Ashworth family, words cannot express my feelings for you all. I will miss you terribly, but will take many friendships and memories with me that will last a lifetime. And finally, to Tiffany Jackson and the Key family, I am so excited to serve you, your students, and your families, and I am so ready to get started and see what adventures we can get into. Again, thank you all so much for this incredible opportunity. I cannot wait to get started on the new journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos, and congratulations to all the appointees tonight on the leadership. As is our custom, we ask all our appointees to please follow Mr. Kale out into the lobby for a receiving line reception so we can welcome you to your new position. If you would, please let the board go first so we aren't delayed too long, and appreciate that. We will take a brief break and come back at approximately 8:10 to 8:15. Excuse me, sorry, my microphone's not on. I'll call back to order the meeting of the Board of Trustees. Next, we'll move on to public hearing. We don't have a public hearing. And move on to open forum for agenda items, which we have no cards on for the agenda. So next, we will move to action item. Action item A, consider TASB Policy Update 101. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg, and we have an update for our policies that require us to take action, and the board committee on governance and policies have looked at these, and we have a short presentation, and then we're open to questions.
Good evening, President Hogg, board members, and Dr. Cavazos. We are here to present TASB, Texas Association of School Boards Policy Update 101. Just a little background information. The update incorporates recent amendments to the administrative code, which is done periodically throughout the year. And this update includes documents talking about board member training, contracts, school nutrition, child abuse and neglect, and reporting of that, and various other topics. The update includes both legal and local policies. The legal updates the law. We don't have any choice. It's what the law says, and so we just implement that into our policy. The local updates can have local tweaks to it, and then needs board approval for the adoption, revision, or the repeal of the local policy. Going through the process with 101 this time, we've reviewed it with appropriate staff, including the board subcommittee. And we've also had district legal counsel look at it, as well as some conversation with TASB representatives. Just the policy codes that are affected. Here's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 local policies, as well as the following legal policies that have been impacted by Update 101. So the administration recommends that the board, of course, coming from the subcommittee's review, approve Update 101 as it's been presented. Next steps, we will continue to make sure that these updates are permeated throughout the system, so that the entire system knows what the changes are with regard to the legal and the local policy. So at this time, we'll entertain any questions from 101.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hill. And Ms. Solon's the chair of our governance committee.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thank you, Mr. Hill. We are, I wanted to visit with the board members that we have taken a deep dive. Mr. Barron and Dr. Reich and I have gone through all of the Policy 101 update. In this case, many times the wording was just some semantics and just some changing to make things parallel in terms of references throughout the policies. We spent a considerable amount of time and reviewed them, and just wanted to let you know that. And also would, as this is an action item, I know we still have more discussion, but I'd like to go ahead and make a motion from committee to approve.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Solons. As a motion's coming from committee, it doesn't require a second. We'll still take discussion. Ms. Pena.
I think Ms. Solons generally answered what my concerns were. I just wanted to know if there was anything that caught your attention as far as a change that was major in any way. I read through them, but I wanted to know what the committee thought in that regard.
Mr. Barron, Dr. Reich, do you have any additional input?
No, it was mostly just changing nomenclature, changing words, but the intent overall in any of these policies really stayed the same.
A tremendous amount of the policies were legal, so they came to us. Yeah.
I saw that, and I know we can't do anything about those, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pena, and I thank the committee and the entire board as we starting from doing the policy update to make sure all our policies were updated a little over 2 years ago to 98, 99, 100. Now we're at policy update 101. So it's a lot of policy work. It's a key to keep our policies up to date. So at this time, with the motion, seeing no further discussion, please vote. 7 trustees present, 7 trustees vote in the affirmative. We've approved policy update 101. Next, we'll move on to discussion action. Consider schools close to transfers for 2015-16 school year. Dr. Cavazos with Mr. Hill presenting. He's coughing over here.
Okay, he's coughing. I'll go ahead. And so this next presentation is about schools being closed to transfers for the 2015-2016 school year. The recommendation from administration is basically the schools that are impacted by new construction and or boundary changes this year be closed to transfers. And so as we went through the redrawing of the boundary process a couple of months ago, the board approved for these campuses to be closed because of that. Keeping in mind that where schools were impacted, or I'm sorry, attendance zones were impacted by the Fine Arts Dual Language Academies, we want to give special consideration to keep those families together when possible, even though those schools are closed to transfers. And then we're recommending not closing any secondary campuses to transfers for the 15-16 school year. So all secondary campuses will be open to transfers where space is available, and then the elementary campuses that we mentioned earlier where the attendance lines were redrawn. At this point, we'll entertain any questions about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Hill. And while we're waiting to see if colleagues have questions, always have the question, we've inquired on a couple of these schools that are close to transfers. On special instances, they're always able to reach out to you and Dr. Cavazos' office for special consideration if there is a extenuating circumstance for that transfer, correct?
That's correct.
So while they're closed, there's always, on the right case scenario, something to be considered, correct, Dr. Cavazos?
That's correct. There are specific cases where we consider that.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Reich?
After our discussion, I would, seeing this as discussion action, I would make a motion that we accept these schools closed for transfer.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Dr. Reich and a second. Any further discussion? I thank everyone for all the discussion we've had in the past over this and reviewing the list. At this time, please vote. 7 trustees present, 7 trustees in the affirmative. Thank you for that. Next, we'll move to consider staffing ratios for 2015-16. Dr. Cavazos, are you coughing? Or
I think I'm okay.
Mr. Kale. Okay.
I'll survive. At this point, we're bringing back a discussion point for consideration that deals with our kindergarten TAs, and we completed our staffing ratios and recommendations last board meeting, and the board approved those. Pending the kinder TAs, and we have some information for you and an update and a recommendation. Mr. Kale.
Good evening, President Hogg, board members, and Dr. Cavazos. This is the additional information that y'all had requested at our last meeting. When we look at the recommended elementary staffing ratios for pre-K teachers assistant, for kindergarten teachers assistants, what I've shown here in 2 different columns is the current ratio as opposed to the proposed ratio. And you can see that the one recommended change is effectively, instead of having 1 TA for 1 to 4 sections, that goes down to 1 to 3 sections for 1 TA. And then we move that 4-section campus into the 2 TA ratio. Now what that does is it actually puts every campus at no more than a 3-to-1 ratio of TAs to sections. So there's some equity there that was not there before, and if you have any questions on that when we get to the end of this presentation, I'll be happy to answer them. This is the base formula. There is also an additional formula should there be a need, so that we continue to have some flexibility and make sure in particular that our TAs provide enough resources to give each kindergarten teacher time for at least 1 planning period. The outcome of the revised or proposed revised staffing ratio for 2014-15 school year is effectively 6 additional kindergarten TAs would be justified based on that staffing ratio. In 2015-16, so projections for enrollment next year, it really goes down to just 2 additional kindergarten TAs would be justified based on that proposed revised staffing ratio. And that really is effectively the big picture, but I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kale. Ms. Solons.
Thank you, President Hogg. Mr. Kell, when we reviewed this last time, and thank you for bringing it back, we talked about how the formula is just the foundation of how we decide to deploy resources. In some cases, it wouldn't be absolutely formulatic. There may be incidents or a case in on a certain campus that would require us to go beyond just the formula approach. Correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. There's actually a supplemental formula to look at to make sure that we have adequate coverage and that we're not stuck just in a math formula, but that we are in fact providing adequate coverage in all of our kindergarten campuses.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Solons. Ms. Mays.
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this back. Thank you for looking at it, and thank you for breaking it down. And I think that our teachers and our students are going to benefit greatly. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Hibbs.
Mr. Kell, thank you for bringing it back, and I thank administration for working on this so swiftly. I mean, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're within our budgetary boundaries. I mean, that's first and foremost, that we have to ensure that, and then also that we're meeting the needs that's at these classrooms. And I just believe that the ratio that we have now, or that will go forward if this passes, is going to be much improved. I think it's going to send a good message to our kindergarten teachers, and we still have work there. I know that we've got some things that we're working towards and some goals that will make our kindergarten teachers next year, pre-kindergarten also, very happy. So I thank you for that work that's being done behind the scenes also. Just reiterating what some of my fellow board members and Ms. Sullins has already said, is that the superintendent already had the opportunity to make adjustments working through the HR department and at the campus levels of when there's been certain staffing needs, and that will continue to happen even with this. And hopefully that just is giving the reassurance to each one of the campuses, whether it be our administrators or our teachers, that if there's certain requests that they need specific for their campus, because we know that there's a myriad of things that could be out there, that they just need to raise those issues up and work through the proper channels. So again, I'm very excited about the potential of being able to make this shift in the alignment between these or the number of classes.
Mr. Hibbs, thank you so much. And to the colleagues that reached out and came up with this and saw this and caught this, thank you for bringing this up. To the teachers who said, hey, let's adjust this ratio, I think it makes total sense, and I'm glad it was brought to our attention on this, on how to adjust this. Mr. Kell, one real quick question, and I know the answer, I just want to make sure. As we're getting a special education update, this does not include any special education TAs that are on a per case basis, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted a clarification. At this time, they'd be more than willing to entertain a motion if it's coming from Dr. Rush.
Yes, I move that we accept the proposed revised staffing ratios for our kinder TAs.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Reich. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Reich and a second by Mr. Hibbs. He beat you to it. That's amazing. At this time, any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 7 trustees present, 7 trustees in the affirmative. We have adjusted the staffing ratios. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Are there any items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll consider the items listed in the agenda under consent items. Ms. Powell, thank the community for her bids, and Ms. Powell.
Thank you, President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos. This evening, we have presented to you earlier in the evening donations totaling $64,290, which brings our year-to-date total to $485,319. We also have 10 bids on the agenda for your consideration this evening, and in all cases, the administration recommends the lowest bids and the bids that represent the best value to the district.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Powell, and always thank the community for their generosity. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Payne and a second by Mr. Hibbs. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 7 trustees present, 7 trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you. We've passed the consent agenda. We have no items withdrawn from the consent agenda. Next, we'll move on to our discussion items. First on the discussion will be our 2014 bond update program. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg. And as part of our implementation of our bond program, we provide an update to the board with the most recent happenings with our bond program. So Ms. Powell will lead us through that presentation.
Thank you. Again, President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos, I'm going to make part of the presentation. Chad Branham's going to speak also about technology. In terms of construction and facilities work, with our Fine Arts Dual Language Academies, the application process is open currently. You can go to the district's website and scroll down on the homepage to find information about the application process for incoming kindergarten students, next year's incoming kindergarten students. The application can be completed and submitted online, or hard copies can be printed and turned in at the McBurn Professional Development Center that is on Arbrook. The deadline for those is Friday, February 13th at 3 p.m. We have held 2 parent information meetings to date. We have another one scheduled for February the 9th. From 6:30 till 8 at the Professional Development Center. We also have added one at Adams Elementary that will be held next week, and that information also is available on our website. With the Career Tech Center, we've worked with our architects, VOK architects. We've had 2 meetings with them in the last month to go through a charrette process with the architects where they help us, a large group of people, express preferences on different types of furnishings, not so much furnishings, but the materials, the makeup of the building, exterior, interior, the look of collaborative spaces, the look and feel of classroom spaces, and we have included students in this process. We started with information that was gathered through the planning labs with DeYoung Richter last fall, and started from there and began to build on that, where now then we're beginning to move more towards specific design of the facility. The planning labs identified the programs that would be offered in the building along with the kinds of spaces that we needed in the building. Now then the architects have taken that information and they've begun to actually draw out the layout of the building itself. So we've given input on that. They are continuing to develop those designs, and they will have schematic designs ready for presentation to the board in April. The Fine Arts Center and Athletics Complex, we have again worked with, or will be working with DeYoung Richter to help us develop the educational specifications. Again, that's identifying the programs that will be offered in those buildings, and then the kinds of spaces we need to deliver those programs. So they've started that process by holding staff interviews last week. They interviewed for the athletics complex, athletics coordinators, coaches, and PE lead teachers even. For the Fine Arts Complex, we've interviewed fine arts directors and visual arts teachers, and we still have one group, the theater arts group, to speak with. They had a conference the day that we did these interviews, so we're scheduling a time with them to meet with our consultants. But the purpose of those interviews is for staff, the users of these facilities, to give input to our consultants to help them prepare for the planning work that they will lead next month. We will have planning labs starting in March for both of these facilities. There will be 2 separate committees, one for the Fine Arts Center, one for the Athletics Complex. And when we hold the planning labs, we will do those labs simultaneously. So at the PDC, one of our consultants will lead the planning lab process for the Fine Arts Center. The other one will be in a separate room leading the planning lab process for the Athletics Complex. We'll have community meetings to take input from the community on these facilities, and then have a second round of planning labs in April, reporting out to the board early June. Venture and Newcomer, those programs will relocate to Ferguson this fall. We've had a visioning session with DeYoung Richter today even, and they will be coming back to conduct additional sessions with that group as we work on the programming of those 2 programs in that shared space. We've begun very much in earnest planning the logistics of our moves this summer. We have a number of moves that have to occur in a short period of time. And so we had a meeting last week with people from a number of departments: technology, plant services, library services, textbooks, the principals and assistant principals from the impacted facilities. And we mapped out, starting with a Gantt chart showing the key construction and maintenance projects that need to occur, mapped out some of the work that will occur to make those moves happen smoothly. And so we're beginning to work on that. Now then, in addition to facilities work, we're spending a great deal of time implementing the other pieces of the bond, including the technology portion, and Chad Branham's going to talk about the work that he and his group have done on classroom technology standards.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Hogg, member of the board, Dr. Cavazos. Thanks for the opportunity tonight. I'd like to share a few minutes regarding what we've come up with our technology minimum hardware standard for our district as a part of the 2014 technology bond package. Obviously, with any process that we undergo as a district, there are certain goals that we want to set as a part of that process. One very large one for our district is to simply increase the level of access and equity amongst all of our instructional spaces across the district as it relates to technology resources for all of our students and our teachers. In years past, the district has never really had a minimum standard. I think this process is important to help us ultimately establish and communicate out what we feel is appropriate for our campuses at each of our levels, from elementary, junior high to high school. So certainly a goal of this process is to establish that. Again, I do want to say this is a minimum standard. We have other mechanisms throughout our district within our bond package, such as our TI grant process that provides additional opportunities for layers above and beyond what this minimum standard would be for our students. I think that's important to note. Certainly a transition that we have been heavily focused on is flexible and engaging learning spaces, transitioning away from fixed desktops and isolated learning areas, and making it more mobile friendly for us to learn anywhere throughout the district and not just in fixed spaces. And certainly being aligned with our district goals and objectives. We've really worked hand in hand with our curriculum and instruction department as well as our professional learning department to have an aligned goal and strategic approach to what we're doing, and that's certainly a goal and important to everything that we do moving forward. And certainly a phased approach is going to be critical. Each of our campuses are in very much a different state across our district. You really have to take it instructional space at a time in some of the instances to make that equitable and where we need them to be. To give you an idea of the process that we've gone through to develop our standard, at the beginning of the school year, we actually established a technology advisory committee. This committee consists of a cross-section of our administrators, our teachers, our students, and our community members. It's a great sounding board for us because it gives us the opportunity to bring to the table ideas and thoughts that we have and how it will impact the learning for our teachers and our students, and gives them the opportunity to provide feedback on what they feel is important and critical for themselves as well. As a part of our initial process, we also had to understand what our current conditions are within all of our spaces to have a good foundation of what we're really dealing with and ultimately helping to shape that conversation. We've also met with a variety of vendors as well as other K-12 institutions, not only locally but also nationally, to get an understanding of what products, what things should we be thinking of, trying to think far out versus limiting ourselves, bringing all of that compiled data back together and ultimately making a recommendation back to our TAC committee, which we did on January the 15th. So let's get into our recommendations. So for our elementary standard, one of the main focuses that we had was interactivity and touch type technologies. Obviously the younger kids, research shows, as well as we've had a ton of conversations about how that's very positive for younger students. And certainly the elementary campuses, we really put a large focus on interactivity and touch type technology. So you'll notice that every instructional space, and I do want to define instructional space because it's not just a standard classroom. We're also considering libraries, all those other types of spaces. And really we're going to work individually with the campuses to identify what they feel is an instructional space and equip that with the proper tools as a part of these standards. But every instructional space will get an interactive short throw projector. In the previous bond package, a lot of funds were spent on interactive whiteboards. That technology has gone away. Really all of the smart components of that is really built into the projector now. So all those tools are there. There's no need for those interactive whiteboards. That really will save us a lot of money as we move forward as a district. One of the concerns that we do have in a lot of our instructional spaces is sound. So one of the things we'll address is to make sure that that is balanced and we have proper sound within each of those spaces as well. Pre-K through 2 classrooms. We felt it was critical to have more of your touch-type technology tablets within those spaces. So we'll be equipping all of our pre-K through 2 classrooms with a certain set of tablets or iPads for those younger kids. Starting in the 3rd grade and up through the 6th grade, Chromebooks, certainly. Just like anything else, we don't know what's going to happen a year or 2 down the road. There might be a new technology that comes out. So these standards could change as we go through the program. But as of right now, those are the types of devices that have been identified for those given spaces. Again, increasing the access as much as we can for those students. We have some of our old classrooms that still have old traditional chalkboards in them, unfortunately. So we're going through and equipping and making sure that all of our spaces have some sort of whiteboard surface in them. Each of the conditions of those rooms do vary. Sometimes we can take those boards down and put up new boards. Sometimes they have to be overlaid because of asbestos. So it really just depends upon the situation of those rooms. And then finally, the teacher standard. Again, we want it flexible for our teachers. We want to equip them with a mobile device, with a docking station. That way they can utilize that device whether they're attending professional learning opportunities or whether they're somewhere else in the building, but it gives them flexibility to have a more engaging learning environment. And a teacher tablet. We feel that it's important for them to, obviously if our students are going to have these devices, we need to have them to have that tool set as well. And then we're going to work with them in developing professional learning paths and training opportunities to help get them more ready for the integration of technology with their students. Junior high standards are very similar. Everything that I just mentioned before, I don't want to rehash that too much. One of the big differences really between the secondary campuses and elementary campuses really revolved around how that interaction occurred. You'll notice that at the junior high and high school, what I'll get to here in a second, we have non-interactive projectors there. They really wanted to focus on the interactivity with the students' devices versus on the projector themselves. So that was a primary difference that the committee felt was important. The rest of that pretty much is the same, except the standard of the devices would be a Chromebook or a device with a keyboard on that for students to be able to share. High school standards, pretty much the same thing. We had a lot of conversations around the ability to scale to a potential one-to-one type of program for all of our high school students. We certainly have the funding to do that. I think as a district we need to be, again, strategic and targeted in how we do that. So we want to take that a step at a time. And a big piece of potentially scaling to a one-to-one really is teacher readiness. And as we have already begun doing, and I'll mention here in a minute, is learning pathways. Before our students ever see that scale of a device within their learning to the scale that we might want them to be, our teachers have to be equipped to be able to integrate those successfully. So, but however, we did want to vision out, and if we wanted the opportunity to scale to that, that's built into this package to accommodate that. And again, a phased approach. This is just a quick slide talking about the 3 areas that we really discussed as a group and as a committee, from our AV standards to our teacher standards and our student standards. Our next steps of this month, we quickly want to turn and develop our actual AV bid specifications so that we can get that out and start to ultimately look at what that could look like for us. A big piece of this puzzle is campus prioritization, because we're going to get a ton of questions about where do we start. And each of our campuses are very different. So we're going to start to prioritize where we start with integrated in our AV standards as well as student and teacher devices based upon the age and condition of the current devices and equipment at those campuses. So I guess the best way to say it is our plan is to start with the worst campuses within the district and develop that plan and start working forward. And as you know, this is a phased approach. So it's a 5-year program. But we plan to rehash that, develop that priority of where to start, and ultimately communicate that out to those campuses that will be impacted with that, and hit the ground running as quickly as we can. We really want to start that this spring, take advantage of the summer, and continue on with that program as much as we can. And I think the last bullet on this slide really is critical, because as we continue to consider the phased approach of these, we really have to consider the readiness of our teachers. I can't say that enough. So we're working very, very heavily with our C&I department as well as professional learning to integrate that and really redesign how we're doing it so that our teachers can be better prepared to integrate technology natively within their learning experiences. In a quick summary, installation and delivery, as I mentioned before, we hope to begin with, based upon our defined priority, we want to begin installation this spring and into the summer, and our initial sets of identified student and teacher devices based upon that priority be ready for the fall of next school year. Just some final considerations. It is a 5-year program. It doesn't happen overnight. We're going to have to take a step back and make sure we're doing that methodically and doing it in the right way and really working with our campuses because it's going to be a great impact on those instructional spaces. So ensuring that we're doing that in the right way. Teacher readiness. We've often talked about doing a ton of things on the front end, but we can't forget about wireless. That's a big piece of the puzzle. If we're going to hand out a ton of devices to our kiddos throughout the footprint and our teachers, we have to be able to support that effectively. So it's important that the back-end pieces are well accounted for ahead of time prior to them receiving those items, and we're already in the process of doing that as well. And then policy considerations. So anytime we have an extension of any of these programs, we want to make sure that we're covered from a policy perspective as well. Any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Moran. We do have questions. Mr. Barron.
Thank you, President Hogg. Mr. Brown, good evening. You know, when we look back at where we were 5 years ago and we look at the technology then, I mean, things have changed so fast. As we go into this new 5 years worth, are we being cautious not to buy 5 years worth of technology right now so that in 3 years from now it's obsolete?
I would say yes. Of course, this is the plan today, right? So as we look at our individual phases, I think what you'll see throughout the technology bond package is we're trying to keep it as flexible and scalable as possible. And I think the more that obviously we are aligned with learning and the curriculum instruction and the professional learning objective of that, we can pretty much plug in anything that we want within that equation. So we'll kind of take it as it comes for now. We obviously have a good approach for phase 1 of the package, but certainly we can adapt. You know, today it could be a Chromebook. It very well easily could be an alternative device, and it really wouldn't make a difference. Sometimes it comes down to cost of that. So no, we're certainly not fixed in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. For the part of the infrastructure is plugs in the classroom. Can we have a feel for if we're on the right track to update the electricity so the actual plug-ins in the classroom so that all work?
I'm not sure if we have.
I was looking for Bob.
Put him on the spot for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of the condition deficiency, Jacobs did survey that, and we have a large amount of money at each campus to make the electrical system more robust. An example, I think at Martin High School, we have almost $1 million in that deficiency for that purpose.
Because I can remember a number of computer classrooms that had cords over cords plugged into power strips that were plugged into other power strips. And are we fixing that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you that no matter how much we put in there, it will never be enough, right?
Oh, I understand.
So certainly it's easier in our new facilities. So as we look at our new facilities, we are really being conscious about that. And we're having a lot of conversations about how to provide charging stations of sort throughout our facilities. So
you're reading my notes, aren't you?
It is.
That's my next thing is charging stations.
Yeah, it's very much in the conversation. And matter of fact, I was in TCA in Austin most of this week and had the opportunity to look at some new product that's coming out. So certainly within the strategy, still trying to figure it out, but very much in the conversation.
Okay, there's been no mention of calculators for math classes. Is that an entirely separate pocket?
Well, Yes, I suppose. You know, I think for us, obviously, as we move forward, we want to become more digital as much as possible. So taking advantage of online software to accomplish the same thing might be an effective strategy. It'll always be a combination of both, because those that might not have access at home today do need access to calculators. We have used bond dollars to replenish those in the past, so as that need arises, we'll certainly account for that, no doubt about it.
And then my last question is a general one on, you, the district, getting any feedback from the classroom, especially from the teachers, on how Bring Your Own Technology is working?
Yes.
Or could we get a report later on regarding that?
We could certainly provide an update. I think if, Chad, you had any insight at this point that you want to provide, or wait for an update time?
I think we're more than happy to follow up with more data. I guess my assessment of that would be BYOD is very limited at this point in time for the most part throughout our district. We have a lot of readiness that needs to take place for our teachers to be able to infuse personal devices in student learning. That redesign, hopefully, the redesign of our professional learning pathways will start us making progress down that road. But a lot of teachers are hesitant because they're not comfortable with what that could look like and the security concerns for that. So I would say we do have a BYOD program, but it's utilized in small pockets at this point.
Because the feedback I'm getting is that it turns out to be the cell phone issue of years ago, and that teachers are constantly fighting with the students to put the cell phone away. When the student says, well, I'm using it for whatever.
Sure.
So
And
we need to look at that, I think.
Sure, and Mr. Barron, I think that one point that Chad made, and you made it briefly, but it's an important point, is that the bigger task in a lot of this is integrating our curriculum and the technology that goes with it.
Absolutely.
And so as we rewrite curriculum, and Dr. Wirtz has a whole initiative for that we make sure that we, on the front end, put in the technology requirements and the technology integration into the curriculum. Bring Your Own Device relies on the fact that a teacher could integrate it, but it's not really part of our curriculum.
Right.
And so while that's a great effort, and I think it's opened some doors, the real leverage point is when it actually exists in our curriculum, and then somebody brings a device to school, and then they can leverage the learning that way.
Sure.
I think we put a lot of effort on access of technology by Bring Your Own Device.
Yes.
But we need to invest on making sure it's in the curriculum, so it's clear direction as to how you use these devices, and that's part of the professional learning and the curriculum rewrite that's occurring.
Yeah, and that process has already started.
I agree. I think that was the intent of the board. But the training hasn't gotten down to the students to know when to use it and not use it.
Yes.
And for what purpose in learning? And I think that's the real key there is, and so what are you doing with the device to actually help you learn the lesson or the objective that the teacher's teaching? And that we need some work on to integrate it fully into the curriculum. Your specialists are involved in that curriculum writing process intentionally and purposefully this time to make sure that that's really articulated in our curriculum, much more than it is today.
Exactly right. Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Ms. Pena.
My question is on listing the recommendations
Yes.
for what we need to provide. I have a general idea and have my own opinion about it, but what is the advantage to giving docking stations? Can you shed more light on that?
That's something that we're going to vet out a little bit more. The thought behind that was, some could say it might be a little luxury, obviously. Instead of having to always bring your laptop back and have to plug in all the miscellaneous cables on the side of your laptop every time you come back to your desk. It also provides the ability for an external monitor. So if they have something they want to preview on a larger scale, they have the ability to view that on a larger monitor. It also charges the laptop at the same time too. So it kind of serves as a multi-function type of thing. It is something that you certainly don't have to have. You could remove that and simply have your laptop and always plug your cables in when you come back to your desk. But that's something that we felt would be nice to provide for the teachers as a part of that standard.
Well, it certainly is a time saver. It also gives the district an ability to update software remotely. I mean, so it does have some advantages to it. But then if we're one of the things you said is that it also gives them the ability to remove the laptop and be mobile.
Yes.
Then what are the mobile tablets for?
What are the mobile habits for?
Tablets.
Oh, tablets for.
I mean, I know the difference between the two.
Sure.
And I personally have both of them.
Right.
But what is if you have one that's remote, that you want them to be able to be mobile, but you're providing them with a mobile tool?
Depends upon the learning experience, I guess is the best way to put that. You know, there are, for instance, Apple has a wealth of apps, educational apps that are wonderful at learning opportunities for students, and certainly that is a tool, I guess, myself as well as the committee felt would be important for them to have. Some could say, does it have to be an iPad?
And we're not talking about for the students, I'm talking about
for the teachers. Right. My opinion is obviously if our students are utilizing the resources, the teachers need to have those same resources in order to plan effective integration learning for their students. So they need to be just as familiar with that device if a student is going to be using that device.
Okay, because I do know, Mr. Barron just addressed technology. I accidentally, with my cell phone, I figured out what I had done, but I accidentally told my cell phone to connect to my husband's iPad. So every time I got a text message, my husband got it. And and that was not my intent. So I do know you can, by other means, connect to the various systems around you.
Sure.
Whether intentional or unintentional.
Sure.
So that was my concern. As we move with technology, just as Mr. Barron addressed, do we need all of this?
Sure.
And I do like docking stations for the reason you said and what I said, but do we need it? That was my question. I'm glad you're going to review it further. You're vetting it out. I guess this is just recommendations, not necessarily that you're going to institute, but.
Correct. I would say a lot of our staff already have iPads that they use, whether it's a personal device or whether it's a professional device that was purchased through the district. This certainly could be an extension of that. We did have a lot of conversation about, is that something we provide them just to provide them, or do we make it purposeful and targeted? And so we have had conversations about achieving a proficiency level, meeting a certain technology standard in order to achieve something like that. So we're continuing to have that conversation and vet that out a little bit and what that looks like. Right now, we felt that that's something that was appropriate at this time, so we'll definitely continue to vet that out and see what that means long term.
Thank you, Ms. Pena. Ms. Mays.
Thank you. Just a few questions of clarity. Cindy, I just wanted to clarify the planning labs for the Fine Arts Center and the Athletic Complex on March the 5th and April 27th. Did you say that those were open to the community to come and attend those?
We will have community members on the planning labs. We will actually be posting information in the next couple of weeks to take requests from individuals to serve on that. We'll have staff members and a mix of community members on those committees.
Okay, thank you. And then Chad, thank you. A couple questions. Okay, the interactive whiteboards, the ones that you stated are kind of out of date now. For the non-glare whiteboard surfaces that you say we can add,
Yes.
will that be using the current interactive whiteboards that are no longer necessary, or actually purchasing something new?
That's a great question, and that's something we're going to take classroom by classroom. So for instance, we do have items that exist in our campuses that might be potentially 3 years old. They aren't the full 5 years old yet, so there's going to have to be some give and take on some of that. Certainly, we do have teachers that are using those tools effectively, and we don't want to take that away from them. So that might cause us to move it down the priority list because of that time frame and address other areas. We would love to be able to do whole campus at a time for the sake of that's really what's best. Don't know if we'll be able to do that. It might be more of a hodgepodge because of certain things not being of age at the campuses. So we'll have to take that as it comes. But to answer your question, no. So we would not leverage that surface.
Okay.
Ideally, campuses that don't have that, they would either get an overlay or a new whiteboard non-glare surface to go along with interactive projector.
Okay. And then also the one-to-one initiative for the Chromebooks at the high school level.
Yes.
I think I heard you say that the one impact of doing that would be teacher readiness.
We have had many conversations about a potential one-to-one. That's something we still need to investigate, certainly, and potentially. We wanted to make sure we were equipped to do it if we chose to do that. But we think we want to obviously be strategic about that. Before we give a ton of devices in a one-to-one situation to students, our teachers need to be ready and prepared to be able to integrate those effectively. So before they get the device, our teachers need at least a full year of full professional learning and development to be ready to do that type of program. So that's something we would do before we would even consider a one-to-one if we chose to do that.
And I appreciate that, I do. I do know from serving on many committees before I sat here, that's been in discussion for the last several years. And I know the students, pretty much, I'd say most of the students are already up and ready to go. So I hope that we can do something fairly quickly to get the teachers ready so that we're not hindering our students in being able to advance with the curriculum and technology because our teachers aren't ready, if that is the case.
And we'll certainly, we need to sit down, obviously, with our curriculum folks, with our professional learning folks, and ultimately develop a package to help us get there.
And Mr. Brown, Dr. Cavazos has a few words.
And I'd just add that, to be clear on that readiness, it's readiness also of our curriculum.
Yes.
Because even a teacher can be ready to do that, but if our curriculum doesn't have the specific use of the technology for learning, then I would categorize that in that readiness as well, and that's part of the curriculum writing that Dr. Wirtz is leading now with his staff and with the specialist. And this is, they're united in that front to say that as we rewrite curriculum, new standards for math, for example.
That's right.
That they rewrite them and make it intentional to put the technology in there so that they can be used. So readiness is a little bigger than just a teacher being ready, but our curriculum too.
Those standards currently obviously are not layered within our curriculum, and so that's a process that has started. And so until that's there, really that's the meat of it. You know, a device is a device. We don't want it to be used as a glorified device. It needs to be embedded in what they do.
Right.
And so that's the key. And once that's ready, obviously, and teachers understand how that can simply be infused in their everyday life, then we feel obviously like we're ready to roll.
Okay, good. Well, I'll be excited to see that happen. And then also, you were talking about technology, and I think you used the words worst campuses.
Oh.
I'm assuming that you meant the campuses whose technology is not up to date as other campuses.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Poor choice of words there, but.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not
No, you're
correcting-
exactly right. Obviously, for instance, a good example of that would be, we have many campuses that still don't have ceiling mounted projectors, as an example.
Okay.
So that would be the first place to look.
Okay.
So, just an example.
Okay, but my question, wasn't trying to correct you, my question was, if that's the case, and we're gonna trying to start with getting technology at those campuses, are we also working on something to close that differential gap with the technology within this 5-year period?
Yes, now you're talking about, want to make sure I understand that. Repeat that one more time for me, if you don't mind.
For the campuses that do not have the same kind of technology that the
Yes.
other schools are getting,
Okay.
and we're bringing in new technology to those campuses, are we also going to try to figure out something to equalize the campuses that are just now getting the old stuff from the other schools?
Yes, I mean,
within this 5
obviously, our
years?
goal is to make this as equitable as possible and develop that and make sure that everybody's at least at a certain point. Now, I'll tell you, because of TI grants and other avenues, we're always going to have pockets of areas that are kind of above and beyond. But we do want to make sure, part of this process is to develop, what do we feel that from a district perspective that all of our instructional spaces should have? And that's our goal, to equip them with that and to make that a level playing field across all instructional spaces. But knowing we still have other avenues to enhance what they're doing if those teachers are the ones that are further ahead and ready to do different things with their students.
Okay, just looking for the equitable part within the 5-year, like the
Absolutely.
chalkboard to the
Yes.
whiteboard.
Yes.
That's a huge
Some
difference.
of those we phased in the first 2 years of the bond package. Others are fluid across all 5 years. An example is the AV standards. We really tried to front end that and do that over the first few years of the bond package to clean all that up. So I'm hoping that a lot of that will become more of equal footing sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Mr. Epps.
Chad, thank you for this, for the presentation that you made. Ms. Mays, I want to follow up on what you were talking about, things being equitable and the campuses. What I don't want the public to think is that some schools are getting, things that other campuses aren't, and what we really will find is many times with Title I dollars, people are not familiar with Title I dollars, but those campuses actually receive larger amounts of campus spending because that's coming in from either the state or federal level. And those campuses many times would have been the first ones to purchase the whiteboards or certain projectors or even the iPads and such, and then we were there would be maybe a everything wouldn't be equitable from campus to campus, but from a district standpoint we send out to each campus things that are similar from campus to campus whenever possible. Some of it requires rewiring at some of the campuses. So I don't want the public to have a perception that in any way does the administration or the board have we approved anything to go to one school that would be different than what other campuses were getting. But if a campus has those Title I dollars, they could go over and spend in the area of technology. I want to touch on something my friend Mr. Barron mentioned a few minutes ago, and it just because he took a little bit of liberty, I think I'm going to do the same thing about bring your own devices. It's key that we need to make sure that at these campuses, especially when we bring in these other things, that if we choose to say that that's going to be your own personal phone may not be the instrument that you should be using in class, that the campuses have good foundation of being able to say, yes, this is the time, or this is not the time. What I'm hearing back from several teachers at some of our high school campuses, they're suggesting to me that because a student can use their phone in their geography class or their history class, they think that they're automatically entitled to it in their literature class. And they're not seeking out any type of bibliographies or anything at that time. So teachers are saying it's giving us a little bit of a hard time because kids are pushing back and suggesting, well, why can I use it in this class but not this? So we need to make sure that we have a good foundation in place that whether it be new technology or what we have right now under our Bring Your Own technology, that the guidelines are enforceable, I think is the key thing.
Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Well said. Dr. Reich.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thanks for the info, Chad. I have a couple of questions. And to, I guess, comment on what Mr. Hibbs just said, we do need to put that out there. Some students, and I'll say even my own, no matter what he has available to him, he still does this only. And I'm always telling him, why don't you use the computer? It'd be a lot faster. So digital citizenship, understanding really the benefits of technology and what appropriate technology to use at a given time, I think is something that we have to help our youth understand a little bit. With regard to the tablets,
yes.
Had a lot of discussion regarding iPads. Are you completely married to iPads? Are you looking at, Android devices, Samsung, et cetera? Are you having vendors, from those organizations come and present and essentially compete for our business on what they can offer a school district regarding not just the technology, but the curriculum pieces as well, the apps associated with it.
I think my short answer to that is, we don't have all those answers yet, but I will tell you, we've had a lot of conversation about that. And a lot of it comes down to standardization and being able to support what we have out in the infrastructure with the limited amount of people that we have to support devices. So there's a lot to be said about a standard to be able to support that in an effective way. At the same time, I get it. I get the flexibility of choice. So we have not finalized that. I think we ended up basically as a committee targeting iPads for the sake of having a standard, a consistent standard among certain areas. Knowing that we'd have other avenues to provide flexibility, for example, the TI grant. So if we have certain areas, science or math or other aspects of the district where they want to do something customized or specialized that might offer something different like an Android tablet or an alternative device, it can be achieved through that mechanism. So we're going to do our best to balance that. Whether that's a choice option or whether that's finding the management tools that support multi-platforms, there's lots of ways to do that. So we still need to hash through that.
Okay, that's fair. And I would encourage you still to, bring in those Apple guys and say, hey, we're looking at this. What can you do for us?
Absolutely.
This is a great boost to your huge bottom line that you already have. And I guess with that, I'm always one for making sure it's best for meeting our needs, but as much as possible, creating a competitive environment as possible, because we'll get the best value overall. Related to that, on the wireless access and the bandwidth, I know that that's a forever need that's always growing. And I would put out the same question, had you looked at possibilities of, well, a few different things, collaborations with the city or with our university, with their technology folks to seek out the bandwidth providers, maybe through an access grant, maybe combining something with literacy curriculum in there as well to make it more enticing for those folks. Have you guys looked at those kind of avenues at this
We
point?
have begun to do that, and really we've had long-range planning conversations around what our entire plant needs to look like. Right now, we lease circuits through AT&T. And long-term, that's just not going to be acceptable. So we have begun that, and we are reaching out to the city and really other entities, because we have an issue of access at home too. So we're trying to address multiple tiers of issues that we have.
Right.
And we need to ultimately have a fiber infrastructure that can support all that. So yes, we have done that. And really, we're targeting, kind of as our transition into the CTE facility, the fall of 2017, to ultimately have, hopefully, that solution in place that will be able to accommodate that. But in the background, we are upgrading our wireless infrastructures to be able to support what we're considering for our campuses.
Yeah.
So that's already taking place.
Sure.
But in the external footprint, we're really looking at probably about another 2-year process to really get to where we need to be, to be able to do that.
And I said I'm a proponent of competition. I'm also a proponent of, if we don't have to pay for it, let's see if we can get somebody else to. And I think there's great opportunities for sponsorships with business and industry or grants, that type of thing. So I would just encourage everybody to keep that on the forefront of your mind. See what we can do for this poor, starving district. We need it. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but we have a big budget, but we're still, thinly spread.
Well, I can assure you it's on the forefront of our thoughts and our conversations.
Okay. I look forward to hearing maybe some great things regarding that in the future. The other thing regarding the Technology Advisory Committee, that's great. You can't make an informed decision without being informed. To that note, with the community members, are there strategic members that are in the technology corridor, or maybe related to some of these, not necessarily the vendors, but related to push our envelope even further than even what you have as our IT guy here in the district?
Great question. Not today, but I'm working on it. We've had two
Okay.
meetings, and we're adding to the footprint of the committee. Knowing it was going to be a growing committee, we needed to hit the ground running and have some critical conversations, but we are very much going in that direction. We're just not quite there yet.
Okay. Well, I that's great. I really appreciate hearing that. You know, our goal of being a globally acknowledged premier district, world-class facilities, this all ties into it, and that really has put us in wonderful situations of thinking way outside the box and creating new boxes. And I really think this is an excellent opportunity to create a new piece of the puzzle of what public education needs to become. That not just the status quo, same old kind of thing. So definitely appreciate that. Regarding technology, I don't have any more questions. I do have a couple of quick questions for Ms. Powell. The first one, can you tell us the first couple of parent meetings for the Fine Arts Dual Language Academies? How was the attendance? And maybe related to that, how are things looking right now as far as applications received?
We've had very good attendance at the first two, and I can't give you the count of applications submitted to date, but that number is growing, and we've been very pleased.
Got people that are happy to say
Stephen,
it.
Dr. Wertz and
we had,
Leslie
I think, a
can
full
help. They
house
want to
at
report.
Sending upon you, Ms.
Corey Ann
Powell.
Workman. I have help.
We actually just pulled the numbers of applications, and we have 92 applications in right now. And we've
Good.
had about 95 people at the last two meetings. We added the fourth meeting, and it's not the same 90 people, so.
Yeah, good. Very good. Yeah, and the application, I see, as you said, deadline is 3 p.m. Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Friday the 13th. Oh, but that leads to Saturday the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, so that's okay. Final question I have for you is on the summer moves. Can you give me just a little bit more clarity with Ferguson and Owsley? Is it essentially we are pulling them offline and emptying them out at that point so they're ready to go, or is this just interim staging for the big move?
Okay, so Ferguson to Owsley will mostly be moving materials out of there.
Okay.
We have obviously Venture and Newcomer Center who will be moving into the Ferguson building, so we'll need furnishings there. But we have textbooks and all sorts of classroom materials and teacher technology that needs to move from Ferguson to Owsley. And so what we've mapped out with all the schools is first, very much like you do with your home if you were about to move, is let's clean out. Let's work at that and get rid of as much stuff that we're not using, don't need, as possible before it comes time to move. And so our warehouse folks will be stopping 1 day a week. We've got a schedule where they go to one school each day of the week from now until May. They're going to work with the principals and their designated assistant principals on that so that the campus can coordinate some of that as well so that they can control the number of teachers and the areas in which stuff is being removed from a classroom, from a storage closet, what have you. But the warehouse folks will pick that up and discard that from now until May. Once schools is out, we will then begin moving. We've got to, it's very much a domino thing. We have to move staff out of Ferguson into Owsley so that then we can move the Newcomer group into Ferguson so that then we can move the Hutch group into Workman. And so we've mapped out the particular weeks in which those different moves will take place. We believe we have enough manpower with custodians who may want to work overtime and bus drivers and what have you in the summertime that we can do this with our staff. We went through something very similar back in the 90s. We had a lot of construction going on, a lot of moves taking place. Our warehouse manager was with us at that time. And he said, you know, they had a schedule. They had a system built where they would have a number of trucks running. They had a crew loading on in one site and another crew stationed at the destination to unload. And so they would just cycle trucks through as fast as they possibly could to move things on, and it worked very well. And so there was a lot of good coordination in the room when we met last week. People in the textbook department were able to ask questions of the warehouse folks, and we had a lot of cross discussion, security, about badges and what gets disconnected when. And since everyone was there in the room, I think we covered a lot of ground, and we've got a good plan mapped out already.
That's great. That's great. And with that plan, and the manpower to support the teachers, especially during the testing times, did you look at that and make sure that that's taken into account as well?
Yeah, we did. And so, again, the warehouse folks will coordinate with the principals on any sort of pickup that they will do at the campus. And at this point, about all we can do is start to remove items and clean out. We have identified football, for example. We had some junior high football coaches said, we're done with football for the spring. Can we go ahead and move our stuff to the new school? And so we're checking to see if there's space somewhere where we can store that stuff right now before we complete the other moves and the clean out. But we will be very mindful of the testing schedules and not disrupt that.
That's great. Thank you for the information, and this is one of so many moving parts and pans in the fire to coordinate this huge undertaking with this bond project. So thank you for the information and the coordination.
Ms. Solons.
Thank you, President Hogg. Mr. Branham? And thank you, Board, for the questions that you've asked. You've asked almost everything that was on my mind, but I do have one short one, and that's all. When you talk about the deployment of all the different technology, the committee met and they've made some decisions. I assume that there's flexibility, that if you get to a classroom and a teacher has a specific thing, they already have their own device, or they have more student devices or so forth, that there'll be some adaptability at the classroom level?
Yes, I mean, obviously, in some instances, we're not sure what we're going to get within certain environments. So we'll do our very best to accommodate what we can. I do think it's important through our process, though, to do as much standardization as we can so that we can support them at a higher level than we currently do today. And it makes it easier for us to support and maintain everything across the board the more that we have consistent across our instructional spaces.
Okay, exactly. So, but as the teachers receive new technology, there will be some kind of conversation, and they'll know what to expect, and if they need to make any recommend any changes individually, and if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Right?
You know, obviously we're about flexibility. So we're going to work with our campuses the very best that we can.
Right.
We certainly want them on the bus, not off the bus.
Right.
In what we're trying to accomplish.
It's a great job, and you have to start with the foundation of what the general game plan is, but I'm really pleased that there's a flexibility built in as well. So thank you. Thank you for your presentation this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Branham. Colleagues, thank you. One real quick question. Mr. Branham, I'm glad to see the flexibility. I think that's a critical factor. As we build this, I know there's been discussion of going to a single sign-on for all employees and all students as we go to that. Is our infrastructure being built to accommodate that single sign-on and that SaaS service that we're looking at so that each child will be able to access that from any portal, from their home, from the library, wherever they are, to be able to access homework, curriculum, all the different pieces?
I'm glad you brought that up. We've actually started that project. We actually did that, I think it was about a month ago or so. So we have procured that. I'll tell you, there are some other things that have come up. Each product that we interface with is a little bit different. It's going to take some time and as a process. We've identified the critical systems for our staff and our student that they access that will be incorporated into this initial implementation. And certainly one of the standard processes that we have is anytime we procure a new product, having certain standards in place to automatically infuse that within what we're integrating today. So yes, to answer your question is yes, we've begun that. I'm hopeful by the start of next school year, we'll have our key systems already under that umbrella where they have a single username and password to access their key systems, knowing that that's always going to be in fluid or in flux as we bring on new systems. Right. One of the challenges we have is there's been a tremendous amount of software that have been purchased by campuses. So one of our strategies is to centralize that process. That way it allows us to then put in those quality standards effectively and map it the way it should be. So that's a whole separate piece of the puzzle that we're having to work through now.
The less software manually installed, the better.
Right.
for
Right
the
now,
process.
they have to manually install it on individual machines.
Right.
In order to maintain that. So we're looking at volume licenses at the district level and licensing that across the board and standardizing that for all of our campuses to be able to help that.
And there's some on some very high-end programs for special classes that sometimes have to do that, but you should be able to control that. It's
Absolutely.
a cost saver for the district. The other thing I'd ask, so when we go into tablets and some of those pieces, will they have sign-on access through that? Will they be able to, would we be able to create a direct link from the iPad, or do we have to just go through the regular Safari browser and the iPad for signing on to that? And then also, the bigger question I have is, I don't see anything in here under infrastructure for security, which is a major factor. The number one thing, cybersecurity, is something we have to be aware of and build out for that. So with that system, and it's not necessarily a bond project, I would say, so it may not be the exact right time, but I think it is something that needs to be addressed.
It is important. Obviously, we already have standard filters in place. So when we browse to resources, our students are protected through our filtering appliances. Nothing's perfect.
Right.
I guess it's kind of a timely conversation because we're actually about to put out an RFQ for a technology audit as a part of the process. And so we're actively looking at our systems, trying to ensure that they're as secure as they possibly can be. So we'll be going through that evaluation this spring, having some recommendations to shore up if any gaps might exist. Hopefully there's not many there to have to worry about, but we want to be proactive with that. So we're going to be undergoing an audit process. We feel we're fairly secure within our systems. A large majority of what we house is internal to the district and not cloud hosted at this point. We do use Google Apps for Education. That certainly is out in the cloud, but again, it's tied behind security in order to help prevent hacking.
And Ms. Bram, I know, no matter what you do, the students that are very tech savvy are always probably almost one step ahead of us, but we just got to make sure we stay up to that same step because they're for the dawn of day, they're always very innovative and creative.
We want those students on our team.
That's right. Our team is a great way to put that.
That's the way that works.
Yes, sir, I agree 100%. And I'll be interested if you create a hacking class in the future. But if that's needed with computer programming and coding classes, those are critical things, and they are all over. And I know many hackers make lots of money by hacking and then plea bargaining and working for the government. So
to answer your last question real quick, our goal is if it's a web-based tool and interface, it doesn't matter what device you use, you'll have that single sign-on capability.
Perfect.
So that's our goal.
That's what I love to see, and critical factor, and then for our staff, so that they can even access their HRIS system and some of those pieces that come into play. The more efficient they are, the more they get done and the more productive they are. So I think it's a critical factor. Thank you much, Mr. Brandon. No more questions. Ms. Powell, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for that update on our bond. Next, we'll move to Dr. Cavazos, our special education update.
Thank you, President Hogg, and we've been discussing special education in different contexts, and tonight we want to bring it all together and have a special education update, knowing that this is one of several, and we could get deeper into this as we have work sessions and things, but we wanted to take this time to discuss our special education program in our district, and Paula Long, our special ed director, and Dr. Wirtz, if needed, will also help in the special ed program update. Paula.
Thank you. I appreciate it, President Hogg and esteemed board, Dr. Cavazos. I am delighted to be here to talk to you about what's happening in special education. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just to kind of give you an overview, we do coordinate a variety of different services in our department, actually many different services. So the things that you see here tonight are by no means an exhaustive list of all of the things that we do, but it is a great look at the majority of the programs and the services that we coordinate. Do keep in mind also that services for students with disabilities are determined through the ARD process, and so we don't make unilateral decisions necessarily to provide certain supports without that process is protected, okay? Our department, we're mandated to provide a continuum of services and supports to students. And so basically, our federal and state laws outline that. And we align the supports that we provide and the program that we implement with those requirements so that we are implementing to the fidelity of the law. We do provide many different types of supports to students in a general education setting. That is always our first consideration, as is outlined in the federal law. Children are general education students first, and so we must look at that environment prior to removing a child from the environment to a special education setting. And our focus is always on services and supports. We are trying to move away from certain language that would not put students first, people first. And so rather than saying a child is an alt-curric child or a C's child, what we are trying to do is change the language, and they're a child who happens to have a disability, and we are providing a specific service and support to that child because we're trying to make our language align with the people first terminology. So our services and supports are provided in a number of different places, including the general education classroom. And so we are again moving away from the perception that special education is a place where children go for services. This is a very basic graphic of the continuum of supports. And so we have many different types of supports that are on this continuum. The continuum does run from least restrictive, as we consider general education and what services can be provided in that environment, all the way to a setting that is only special education. And we do have children, we do educate children in those settings, and that's pretty much primarily where they spend the most of their day. So least restrictive would be consultative support. We do have many different support services in between. In-class support is one of those options. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then our specialized support, our supports also. This is just to kind of give you a picture of maybe the differences between our programs and the specialized services that we provide. This picture is representative of an alternative curriculum program. It is a special education setting, but there are many, many specialized supports that push into that program. Those specialized supports also push into other environments across the school, also into the general education classroom. Consultative support, we have a number of children receiving consultative support, and this is the least restrictive form of support. And most of the students receiving this consultation would have a relatively low need for support, and most of what we do, well, all of what we do is in a general education environment, and it really is critical that the collaboration between general education and special education occur for this support to be successful. We have in-class support. This comes in many different forms. We have provided to campuses a matrix of different types of support options for that in-class piece. It could look like a teacher pushing in for 1 day a week for 30 minutes to support students in a gen ed classroom. It could be a situation where we have a co-teacher in a classroom for 5 days a week for the entire period. So there are just a number of different options available for ARD committees to consider when they consider what needs a child has and a match for the support for that particular child. And so we have lots of plans to have a lot more discussion with campuses and training regarding that piece, because right now that is a little, well, we're moving in that direction, but right now that's a piece of the continuum that teachers don't yet fully understand what it's going to look like in our district. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And again, this type of support is designed to minimize the impact of the student's disability when they're in the general education classroom, and also we want to, we base that, and I gave some examples of the different types. We make those recommendations based on, and really all recommendations for specialized support, based on a frequency and a duration. And so when we do have those conversations through the ARD committee process, what we would see for a child would be so many days, so many minutes, okay? Also, in order to help minimize the loss of instructional time, we are advocating for more in-class supports, because when children leave the general education environment and go to a specialized setting, and they do that multiple times throughout the day, not only do they miss out on instruction in the classroom, but they also lose time in transition, so they're not engaged bell to bell. So that's a benefit of considering that support as an option for students. A collaborative teaching arrangement is something that we are hopeful that as we move into this, that teachers will enjoy, because when you do have 2 teachers in the room, it enables you to lower the teacher-student ratio, so that when you have groups of students, and not only students with disabilities who have needs in that classroom, you have more hands on deck to help address the needs of all the learners there in that environment and in the general education classroom. We do use currently across every environment supplemental aids and services to help students be successful. An example of that would be graphic organizers and things of that nature. Special education staff implement and teach those things in a special ed setting. General education teachers also are able to do that in a general education setting, and the benefit to having a teacher come into a general ed classroom to provide in-class support would be that they work together to have all of those tools available to learners who have diverse needs, not just students with disabilities. So again, we're looking at helping to support the education of all students in alignment with our strategic plan and helping to prepare all students to be college and career ready. Specialized supports, due to the severity of some students' disabilities, we do, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of those numbers in a minute, we do educate children for a majority of the school day in specialized settings. Our alternate curriculum program is one of those programs that is very specialized to meet the needs of children there. That does not mean that children who access services in that way do not or should not have opportunities also to receive some supports in a general education setting. Many of our students go into classrooms where we have music and art and things like that going on. Some of the specialized programs that we have here in the district, we do have a shared service arrangement for the regional day school program for the deaf. Miller, Young, and Martin High School are our sites for that. We do have our preschool program for children with disabilities, PPCD is what we call that, and that program serves students ages 3 and 4. We have our academic behavior learning environment, our ABLE program. The majority of students that are served through that program are students who also have autism, and we provide to those students in-home parent training, and we do organize social groups to also help support the growth of students with autism. We have an social, emotional, and academic success program called the SEAS program, and we have alternate curriculum. We have our pre-vocational program at our secondary campuses, both junior high and high school, and we have 18 Plus. 18 Plus is a program that supports learners who are students who typically stay with us until they age out at the age of 21 or 22. And so once they have completed 4 years in high school, then our programming changes for students, and we are working on helping to make that program look different. And so we educate them in what we call age-appropriate environments, and so they are in the community a large part of the time. And so that helps to reduce, again, the teacher-student ratio at the campuses because students are educated in an environment that's appropriate for their age. We have adapted physical education program. Many of the students who receive adapted PE also have PE in a general education environment, but our APE coaches work with coaches to help bring in adaptive equipment, and also when they need to do that pull-out service, they do the pull-out service or even have a special class. Special Olympics is something that we also support, so students have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular sports, athletic activities, the same as their typical peers. Assistive technology, we have support a range of options to support students to access instruction using technology. And so we are constantly looking for tools and things to help students when they need to participate during instruction, to help them, be more successful in the content. We do provide hospital bedside services should we have the need and a student is in the hospital for 4 more weeks, then we would provide services to that child in the hospital. We have a program for children at our Millwood facility, and we offer a variety of different resource services. There sometimes is a perception that resource means just a class, but actually resource is many things. Resource could be that we take a small group of children during our tutorial time during the school day or our intervention time, and provide a very targeted and very intentional reading instruction during that time. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 45 minutes, but there are a number of different ways that we can utilize that particular service to support students' gap closure in their achievement. It doesn't necessarily mean it's just a class. We have dual enrollment for students who are also enrolled in a private or a home school and they receive services in our district. We provide services to students who qualify in extended school year during the summer. We provide homebound services for students also who qualify for homebound, and we have a number of students who are on homebound for an extended period of time. We also support the general education homebound program as well. We have 3 music therapists that work with all of our specialized programs and that work with students also. We provide counseling and psychological services, speech-language therapy services. Many of our speech services are provided in a push-in environment, is what we call it. For our specialized programs, therapists do go into that environment as opposed to pulling students individually. And so they work collaboratively with the teachers, and so it's wonderful to help build students' communication skills in that manner and help teachers understand how to work with the children to carry that through the rest of the school day. We provide occupational therapy, physical therapy. We also have a work-based learning program, a VAC program, at all of our high school campuses. We offer transition services to students to get them begin teaching them actually as early as the 5th grade, help them advocate, help them be able to communicate their needs when they go to a college. Parents can't go and ask for assistive technology devices for their students. The children themselves have to advocate for that. So we have a real strong transition program to support students and help them transition successfully. Orientation, mobility, and vision services is another area that we offer a lot of support in. We have a new requirement for expanded core curriculum in that area, so we are now going to be working in the summer to help teach children in the community orientation mobility. We offer also itinerant auditory services to students at different campuses who are auditorily impaired. We have those AI teachers going to provide the services there. And we do offer a lot of consultative support for our specialized behavior supports. And so we have a team of people who do support across the district in that manner. To kind of talk to you a little bit about our organizational structure, we have 9 curriculum coordinators. They are assigned to networks, and they also have specializations. Instructional specialists, we have 15 of them, and they, again, are assigned based on area of specialization, and they are out constantly at the campus providing job-embedded professional development and support for teachers. We have a support request system so that when campuses do have concerns and they feel like they've exhausted all the remedies that are within their toolbox, they may submit an online request to our coordinators. We get anywhere from about an average of 6 to 10 a week for each of the networks. And those requests are then, we respond to those requests. And some of them, the more specialized requests, go to our specialized behavior support staff. Okay, so we do have that system in place to support campuses in helping to resolve some of the issues that they have. We do have a professional development structure, all the way from being able to provide that PD on the campus, in the classroom, modeling, to pull out and working with teachers. We also have scheduled meetings with different teams and PLCs. These are our numbers currently. At October snapshot, we served, or we had enrolled students with disabilities on that date, 5,233 students. At the elementary, there are 2,914, so we have a large number of students at the elementary level. Junior high, 858, and high school, 1,460 students. And so currently, those are where our numbers are in terms of how they're distributed across the district and the total number of students that we serve. We are right now, in terms of our special education program representation, at about 7.6% of our population. And so we are, the state rate is 8%, so we're just below the state rate in the number of identified students that we serve in our district. Program participation, these are all the specialized programs that we have, the special ed settings, if you will, and the number of students that were served in the program on the date that I put the PowerPoint presentation together, and the number of campuses that have those programs. Our PPCD, we serve 176 students currently in that program, and that is on 12 different campuses, okay? Alternative curriculum, 543 students over 17 campuses. Our ABLE program, 176 students over 12 campuses, and so on. I can go through it if you'd like, but there are, we have in our 18-plus program, for instance, and it's growing, we have a large number, 32 students this year in the community, and those students are located in one program, and they're attached to one high school campus, actually. So where are we going in special education? People are asking that question lately because they hear we're doing some different things, and inclusion is one of those things. And we are moving toward what we're calling inclusive education, okay? And we do have a plan for a multi-year phase-in of that type of a support structure. Inclusive education initiative would include some aligned professional learning. We have a menu of professional learning that we're planning for the spring semester. It actually begins in February, the 23rd. We're going to be training administrators, giving them an overview, talking about how to do scheduling. And then in March and in May, we will be training. We have a consultant coming in to train a team, a 6-member team from every campus on inclusive practices. We are planning to work with our consultant they will be coming in to do some analysis. They're going to be doing some interviews and some focus groups, and they're going to kind of give us an idea of where we are in terms of our services, what we offer, and how aligned that is with a best practice scenario, and where we should be moving with inclusive practices. That will include a look at those programs that I just shared with you to consider how we begin to decentralize some of these very, very large programs, and gradually, in a phase-in process, build capacity at other campuses to support students in those programs. We are, again, looking also at our resources and the support structure so that we can align that to this process. We are moving toward a more intentional analysis of student needs, where it's more focused and intentional, as opposed to having a whole class for a large majority of the students in English language arts in a resource classroom. There may only be a need for that type of support for 2 or 3 or 4, and the majority of students may benefit more from having a very targeted, specific supplemental reading program or supplemental math program that we work with them during the intervention period, so that we maximize the amount of access that they have to the general education curriculum and the content in the general ed classroom. We are also hoping to increase our effectiveness of campus support by providing all of these trainings and structuring the supports that we have in our office to assigned campuses. Inclusive education does support the belief that all students can and will learn and that they can succeed. And that's important. Mindset's important, because sometimes I think we don't all believe that, and it's important to have that mindset. And so it does support that philosophy. Diversity does also enrich us all, and students at risk do overcome risk for failure through involvement in a thoughtful and caring community of learners. And that's what we want to create here with our Inclusive Education Initiative. Each student does have unique contributions to offer to other learners. And if we don't have children with disabilities in a classroom with typical learners, then we miss opportunities for typical learners to benefit from that child being there, as well as the student with disabilities. Each student does have strengths and needs, and that applies to every person probably in this room. And so we want to recognize that all children have strengths as well as needs. Services and supports shouldn't be relegated to one setting. And so, again, that's a mindset in terms of learning what other options are available and helping to build capacity at the campuses to support those options and students in those different settings. And effective learning does result from collaborative efforts and everybody working together as a team. Not just at the campus level, but also at the district level. The success of this initiative very much depends on the interdependence and the collaboration of many different departments, the Curriculum and Instruction Department and the Special Education Department, and others working together to make it happen. We do hope that through this Inclusive Education Initiative that we increase student academic achievement, because we increase their access to instruction and we become more intentional with the kind of supports that we provide, so that we are able to help close that gap more quickly, that learning gap more quickly. Systemic change in our schools does create rich learning environments for all students, and this is a systemic initiative. And it's a systems change, a different way of thinking about how we support students. We will, of course, engage in leadership development and increase that collaboration with our leadership, and that includes leadership in other departments. Differentiated instruction is something that absolutely has to be addressed through this initiative, and that really is something that we need to build from a Tier 1 level up, and so again, that collaboration is critical so that we can infuse into, as Dr. Cavazos alluded to, our writing our curriculum. We can infuse into that curriculum a more universal design principle, so that we build those supports from a Tier 1 level, from a gen ed classroom level for all students up, okay? And also a system for staffing and scheduling instructional supports for the campuses. Our consultant is going to help the campuses consider how they use their staff and think differently about how we use our staff in an efficient manner to support the needs that we have. But always, if we recognize that we have exhausted our remedies, again, we want to make sure that we support campus efforts and initiatives, and so that will be something that certainly is on our radar to make sure that we monitor and, to support. Also, a more effective and targeted use of our resources so that we align the resources that we have and make sure that they're very effective, that we eliminate some things that maybe aren't effective and align the most effective resources to where the need is. These are some of our goals for this new initiative, and that is to have an evaluation of our current services that has already begun, to determine the extent to which our effective practices are in place, and how our resources are used to effectively support that. Again, a proposal for some comprehensive professional development. We also have a plan to deliver on-site technical assistance. We have 50 days that we're going to use for consultants to be out on campuses, coaching and giving feedback and training our campuses, and also to increase the skills of our campus leaders to help structure and grow the culture for that at the campus, in increasing district and department level capacity to provide the leadership and the support that's necessary to help move this change forward over a period of the next 2 to 3 years. Does anybody have any questions? That was a lot, pretty quick.
Thank you, Ms. Long, and we know a lot of work's going into this. Mr. Hibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Long, nice to see you.
Likewise.
I've heard so many great things about you, and
Thank you.
so many people have really praised you for the number of concepts and reinvention of our departments here. And I have some questions,
Yes.
but I do want to start off by saying I truly excited about the opportunities and programs that you're bringing towards the district, and you've done a lot in a very short period of time. So,
thank you.
Real quick, for the ARD, I'm familiar with the ARD
Yes.
process, but everybody isn't, and that's a scary process
Right.
for parents to come into. So, for parents that come into an ARD process, from a district standpoint, who is generally there? It's principal?
Yes.
Go through.
The required members of an ARD committee are the principal or assistant principal, the designee, the parent, a special education teacher, and a general education teacher. Depending on the type of services that a child has, if a child is in a career technology program class, for instance, a CTE teacher is required at the meeting. If it's a child with an auditory impairment teacher is required. The same with vision. So sometimes the need of the student determines what additional members are present,
Right.
but the basic required members are the principal, the parent, and the general ed and special education teachers.
And that's kind of a situation that you really have to be kind of that calming support to
Yes.
to share with the parent.
Yes.
We're here to assist.
Yes.
One of the things a fellow board member and myself, Ms. Sullins, and I were talking about is as we have groups of kindergartners come in, because
Yes.
during the kindergarten year, the first 6 weeks, many of the teachers are just doing evaluations.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we were talking about, and I've already mentioned to the superintendent, is, maybe having that as an opportunity of a time for families to come in and meet with our counselors, and maybe the administrative staff to help get a jump start on that process of, the evaluation process and placement. I would think that this would be a great opportunity also that if there is any children with special needs, that process could begin there also, so that the children are maybe off and running, at the first part of the school year.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there. You probably already have that in your bag of tricks, so but that's something that I think is very, very worthwhile in looking into. I want to move over to the alt curriculum or some of our campuses that have those
Right.
children with the special, maybe larger special needs.
Right.
You know, the opportunity to access to the general ed, I think is a fantastic idea. I think there again, you'll get, you probably have classroom teachers in some of those general ed classes that are maybe a little bit fearful.
Right.
And I know that in a lot of ways, parents saying, you know, is there going to be a child in the room that they're fearful of the unknown?
Right.
And it's really overcoming those barriers and hurdles there.
Right.
And I know that it's kind of like walking a tightrope. I appreciate that you were talking about the groups that would be brought in, maybe the 6-person teams from the different campuses, because probably over and over, that's the one reoccurring thing that I've heard is either a teacher going from standard classroom into one of the classrooms with special needs, and they say that they're not prepared because they don't. It's the fear of the unknown again,
Right.
And then vice versa. So I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles I think that we have to overcome as a district, and making sure that our teachers fully are aware and understanding of what it means to say that I'm going to be co-teaching.
Right. Yes.
From a situation, we've got 3 primary campuses at the high school level right now. It's Lamar, Sam, and Bowie.
Correct.
And Bowie is by far our largest, right? Or is it our largest? Sam is close, or?
Actually, Bowie is the largest, but Lamar this year is neck and neck.
Oh,
So,
is it? Okay.
Yes.
When you talk about the students that are 18 plus, are those primarily at Bowie?
They are not. They're at Seguin.
They're at Seguin.
Yeah, we
Okay,
pull
wow.
those students off the campus and
Okay.
house them at Seguin, and they really are in the community most of the day.
Wow, okay.
So-
Is that new this year?
No, it's not new. We've had it several years. It's growing.
Oh, it's growing,
It's
okay.
growing, yes, it's
Okay.
grown.
I know that because I visited both the Sam and the Bowie campuses, and one of their reoccurring issues is staffing, especially with the TAs.
Mm-hmm.
Those TAs have a lot of challenges in
They do.
having to handle things. I don't think the general public understands that, you know, there's children that need some real help, even when it comes to personal hygiene.
Right.
And I know that earlier in the semester we had some vacancies.
Yes.
How are we doing against those vacancies now?
Well, this is a conversation that we've already had, and the Stetson group that's come in to do this study, one of the things that they identified in the study is a recruitment issue where salary is concerned.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
Is it because if it's a salary issue, and we know that these are highly specialized,
Yes.
and it's needed for those positions, I think that's something this board needs to make sure that we know about.
Right.
Because, you know, we need to do everything we can in the support
Right.
of these programs, and, you know, whether it be for the teachers, but ultimately for the children themselves.
Right.
So from that standpoint, that would be something that I think our board would be very, very interested in making sure that we don't have issues as it concerns staffing.
Mr. Hibbs, Dr. Voss was at Sundad. If you
And
want to-
Mr. Hibbs, that's part of the process we're going through with this year's market analysis.
Good.
And not only with those positions, but substitute, certified subs, tutors, how much we pay for extra duty pay for training and things like that, that'll be coming as
Good.
part of our budget process.
Awesome. And that actually answers my next question, so
Okay.
I appreciate it again. I thank you for a very detailed presentation. Always welcome you to come and share more about this specialized department.
happy to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Hogg. Good evening, Ms. Long.
Good evening.
Maybe in, I don't know, 30 words or less, could you tell us how does a child get designated as a special ed student? I mean, who actually says, let's test that child?
It could be any number of people, actually. We have parents who walk in and say, I want to refer my child from the community. For children who are younger, sometimes they're not younger. Sometimes parents say, my child is struggling and I want my child tested. That's one way. We have a structure at every campus called the Response to Intervention Structure. That's a student, it's basically a child study team. And when teachers identify students who are struggling and they have collected data and they've intervened and children don't respond to intervention, then teachers can request or refer a child to that team to be studied. Any teacher, and of course the RTI team, could make a request to refer a child, that child be tested. And so that's another venue or an avenue for a child to be tested. And so it could be either of those. I have this year had principals call and they say we've got a child in pre-K or in kinder. I will say that at the beginning of the year, we spend a large amount of time at campuses just addressing needs of pre-K and kinder students. Okay, general ed students, they're not eligible for our services at that point usually. The children that you are probably referencing, and principals will say, well, I've got this student and this is what's happening. Our staff, our staff are guiding always those decisions if we're asked. We are not always asked. Many times campuses just follow the processes that are in place, but if we are asked, we guide those decisions. Principal called me and said, I have a child who's not talking. The child has echolalic speech. And we've been working with the child for like 3 months now. What do we do? I said, refer. That would have been a child that we would have referred immediately. Now the process at the campus is such that we still have to have a plan in place for the child while the child's being tested. And so the RTI child study team still needs to look at that child. Our staff go out, they work directly with the teacher, put systems into place, and then we have what we call gap support. We have classroom teacher assistants that we assign, they're very specialized in their training, that we assign to work with that child and with that teacher. Some of them stay for the duration, most of them don't. We put systems in place and then we're on to the next case, but we do check back and follow up.
So is there a differentiation there for behavioral and physical and educational special ed?
There are 13 eligibility categories, and orthopedic impairment is one category. The majority of the numbers that I shared with you, the majority, and I would say it's about 65% of all students with disabilities in this district are students with learning disabilities. And the majority of those are in the area of reading. Okay, so that's the majority of students that we serve in this district.
Okay.
So,
is there a special ed parents group that we participate in or facilitate or support?
We don't have I think in the past that was a charge of the department to have a parent group. What the department, I think, ultimately did is we have a special education PTA group, and so we've kind of partnered with that group. And so I've become a member, and I've been invited to the meetings, and I go, and I've met with the parents. They've requested meetings with me. And we just had, in fact, the 27th of January, we had some of our team go out and actually train parents in co-teaching and inclusive practices. So they're definitely interested in what's going on, and I am there to be transparent and to provide them with support and training that's requested. So yes, and I would like more involvement with parents in the community. We also are typically, well, always on the session agenda for Parent University for parents as well. So,
Is inclusion an extension of, or another word for, the least restrictive environment?
Inclusion is a philosophy, and basically what it supports is that we make every effort to take the services and supports to the child in the least restrictive environment. Now, for most children, the least restrictive environment is the general education classroom. For some students, the least restrictive environment is that very specialized setting, but for the majority, it is the general education setting, yes.
Because I think Mr. Hibbs, who just disappeared, he must have been reading my notes here, because I really wanted to comment on the fact that I was surprised this year when I heard so many parents were concerned that inclusion was the thing this year, and that their child was going to have a special ed student in their class, and the sky was going to fall. From all my years of teaching and having special students in my class every year, or several, or 5 or 10 or whatever, there was never a problem. Yeah. And it's fear, it's ignorance on the part of teachers, parents, fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And that's too bad, and that's our job to fix that.
Yes.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Ms. Sullins.
Thank you, President Hogg. Dr. Cavazos and Ms. Long, I want to thank you for this presentation this evening. It's something I've looked forward to for some time, and it's certainly a very comprehensive discussion about special education. It's been very helpful to me. I really only have one question. I anticipated a long list, but just one. You showed a chart with the student count.
Yes.
You know, where are we currently in terms of enrollment? Does that include students that are 504? Or where does that, that's in a different group?
That's a different group, yes, yes.
Okay.
Our 504 program is a different program. And so that count does not include those students.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you, and thank you very much for coming this evening. It's been very, very informative and helpful for me.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Reich.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thank you for all of the information. The comments from Mr. Barron, Mr. Hibbs, as far as fear of this changing, I would assume, but I'm asking for clarity on the inclusion principle. Is that supported with best practice data, essentially? I assume that it is, but
yes.
And I think that'll go a long way to put some of those data facts and points out there and communicating, including that it does not affect adversely the achievement of the other children in that environment. I think that's key. That is some of the things that we've heard. A couple of the questions that I have with the transition process and the consultants coming in, how are they going to affect and model and look at efficiencies when at this point we're still in where we're at, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be as far as how many students are going to be and where they're going to be and that type of thing. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Basically, what they will do is to tease out through the focus groups and the interviews and their observations where we are now in terms of, and it's not just where children are being educated. It's a number of different things. It's people's perceptions. It's possibly even some of the resources that we use to support where we are. It's how we structure master schedules. And so they're going to kind of get a comprehensive look at where we are so that then they can help align us, the training and the plan, and incrementally get us where we need to be. A part of that discussion will likely be like how we use our staff to support. If they go out to a campus and they see this campus has, for instance, 46 students with disabilities on their campus, And of that 46, we educate 30 of them for the majority of a school day in a resource reading and math class. Then that's good information for the consultants, because then the consultants have an idea of how to approach in their training, and when they do technical assistance at the campus, how to approach making helping that campus in that mindset shift, and giving them very specific guidance on how they might repurpose their staff and make decisions in a very systematic manner. Again, a part of what would hopefully make this more successful is to do things in a more systematic manner, as opposed to pushing immediately overnight. We're pushing everybody out. So they'll guide that thought process and how they go about that transition at their campus. So knowing where they are is really critical to helping guide campuses in how they make that transition.
Okay. And somewhat related to that, you said that the goal is to not have the labels as much as, you know, the C's programs, the ABLE program, that kind of thing,
Right.
and make it child focused and whatever their needs are, which might be a combination of some of those
Right.
elements of those what are now programs. So how, from a budgetary standpoint, right now, that's what you have to work with. We've got
Right.
this many kids in the ABLE program, this many kids in the C's program. So how are you going to make that transition from as budgetarily?
Well, we don't yet have all of that information.
Okay.
Right now, we're in the initial stages of just really looking at our data and considering, we haven't yet considered the impact in terms of facilities, how it might impact us in terms of the number of staff that would be needed to do that. We know that there are programs that will have to remain intact. Our medically fragile, the services for students who are medically fragile, we must have centralized services for those students. We must protect some of the specialized settings that we have right now for students who have behaviors that are so outside of what is typical that their behavior impedes their own learning and the learning of others, and we have to have a setting where we educate children and then work them back as they are ready to go back. So we recognize that we're going to still have to have some special purpose programs, but in terms of the impact, we don't yet know, because we've not done that analysis, and these consultants are going to help us look at that. You know, my hope is that when you spread students across the district, you're looking at some campuses maybe having 5 or 6 students. And so we look at our resources then in that way and match those resources with student needs. As with any kind of any plan to do something that major, we would want to phase it in and look at whatever budgetary impact, facilities impact over a period of time. It certainly wouldn't be something that we can do overnight. There's no way.
Right.
So.
Okay. And I guess that's a good segue to my last question regarding facilities. And we just had the bond passage, and that had some dollars allocated.
Yes.
Can you speak to how that fits in with all of this?
Yes, those dollars were earmarked essentially for very specific purposes. And at this point, those, until there's further discussion about that might change that, and I don't know that it will, but those dollars are still earmarked for that purpose of having services at a junior high, centralized services at a junior high campus and at a high school campus. And so our numbers, and I've looked at our numbers, you know, our numbers are such that at this point we have some overcrowding at some campuses that we need to address. And so that's needed still at this point, okay? And overcrowding with students who have some very, very specialized needs.
So does that fit in with the model of inclusiveness and decentralization, or is that likely something that you'd probably be coming to us saying, we need to look at this and adjust this a little bit?
I think it's too premature at this point to say that I would come and say we need to adjust it, because we really haven't even started having conversations around what that looks like, and where those monies, will go towards supporting, this initiative. So I can't really say, because I think it's really premature at this point, other than to say any recommendations that we would have as a district would certainly be in alignment with this comprehensive process and really the needs of our students. And again, as I said, we still do need to protect programs for certain students, because we do have students that do need specialized supports. Okay.
Okay, and is that probably on phase 3 of our bond?
Actually, I was going to ask Ms. Powell to come down, but it's actually, they're in phase 1 and 2.
It is
but
phase
Cindy,
1 and
you want
2.
to address a little bit more about the planning that'll take place? Because it's a similar process, but
Okay.
she probably can give you more detail on
Yeah,
that.
and obviously, the reason I'm asking these things is I don't want us to go through a big expense that is greatly inefficient because it's ineffective to what our goal is.
Those are considered a Phase 2 project, and so we will be beginning that work, that planning work, to decide what makes best sense for how we implement those.
And I will add that this is an important intersection of both the program review, how we serve students, and then the facilities. And that's why we're taking a little bit of time here before we start this planning process, to make sure we're hitting the mark, because we may have to make some adjustments, but we don't want to make them prematurely or just implement them without the study. So it's part of phase 2, and it's getting going, but it's also in parallel with this other project.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, it's obviously it's important that we stay in alignment fiscally as well as keeping up with the times to be on the forefront of meeting the needs of the students. Thank you very much for everything. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Ms. Mays.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. I think you asked some questions that I really had, so I won't repeat those questions. But as part of our mission, we say we want to empower and engage all students, and this definitely includes all students. So I'm really excited to hear us moving forward with making sure that we are engaging this group of students who is inclusive of all. Also, the collaborative teaching part, I really like that. I think that's very interesting. For one, I think it'll allow familiarity for those students to see that teacher come into the room with them as they're transitioning. So I'm really excited to see the collaboration of those teachers in the classroom. I did want to just clarify, under organizational and campus support structures,
Yes.
for the support request system, did you say that y'all get 6 to 10 requests per week per campus?
Not per campus.
Okay.
Each of our network coordinators and we've divided into 6 networks.
Okay.
Per network, that network coordinator gets on average 6 to 10 a week per
Okay.
network. And so that's about 60 a week. So that's a number.
That's
It's a
a
large
lot.
number. It is. And I gave you the numbers of staff that we have that respond to that.
Right.
And we do respond. We respond to every single support request that's submitted to us.
Right.
But and it's an efficient system.
Right.
I think we manage it well. But again, I think it speaks to also the need to help build some capacity also at the campus, and the initiative that we currently have with the school-wide PBIS. We are very hopeful that that will also help address some of those classroom management issues that might impact the need to have someone from my department go out, to support those behavior requests.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's the shot of how many students you were currently servicing at that time. Do we have any previous shots? Have we seen any trends to see if this is increasing continually?
Right.
Have you seen any trends?
Actually, we're trending toward a decrease in our numbers. We have had a gradual decrease in our numbers. And so that's, of course, concerning to me, because obviously, we do still have need, as you
Right.
pointed out.
Right.
And so that is something that, as you said, Mr. Hibbs, is definitely on our radar. And so we recognize that, strengthening our response to intervention process at the campuses and helping, people understand from a disability awareness perspective what some of that looks like, and is definitely an initiative that we have. So, yes.
And then my last question is, the 6-member team, that's
Yes.
from each campus?
From each campus.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Ms. Long, I have a last couple of questions for the night for this subject. Let me just ask on the inclusion, which I see the benefits of it, but I also have the concern, what training do you have prepared for our current teachers from the general ed population? Because I like the collaboration, but I think there's also a lot of training that goes into it. So what
Yeah.
professional development do we have
Yeah.
from that side for our general ed, I guess, I don't want to say general ed, but our core curriculum teachers?
Right, right. Well, the training that's going to take place in March and in May, 2 of the 6-member team are going to be general educators and 2 of them special educators. And so it's a 3-day intensive training that will take place. That team then goes back to the campus, and it's a trainer of trainer model, if you will. They begin to implement, but they also begin to share that information with their campus. We will have a summer institute over the summer where we will offer to all teachers sessions that they can attend with very specific training on tools, things like how to differentiate instruction for diverse learners in your classroom, how to use flexible grouping to reduce the student ratio and be able to have a scenario where you can do small group in the classroom with a second teacher. So there'll be a number of different things that all teachers, specifically general education teachers, can access in terms of training in the summer. We have also, since this is a phase-in, it's going to be multi-year training. So next year, we're going to also train more teachers in the step-by-step is what we're calling the training. So there'll be more teacher teams trained. And that's just from a consultant level. Every single coordinator, director, and specialist from all of the programs will also be in that training. They're going to be required to attend, and so they'll be trained. And so we will then be working together to look at how we structure supports as an organization to do also that job-embedded type of support and training at the campus. Because you can train with consultants. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Many good things happen from that. But it really doesn't become something that takes a deep root without that you have follow-up and you have that kind of sustained support at the campus level. And so that's the plan, to grow it and support it from a grassroots type level. Okay.
Ms. Mays, you got?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say I think that is also what's nice about collaboration is then that teacher actually gets to see it actually really happening in the classroom. So another phase of train on train.
Yes.
Agreed.
And we had this great idea that if we do, when the C&I department does the core training, that it would be beautiful to model inclusive practices and have someone from the special education department and the bilingual department delivering the content, but in a way that would model the inclusive practices, the co-teach models. So we're really doing many things with one training. So.
And Ms. Long, I know recruiting TAs for special ed is always a very difficult. It's one of the hardest jobs out there in our district. What's happening on that recruitment? Because I know we're constantly, I think, short-staffed on TAs for special ed. So is an analysis being done on that? Is that part of the market analysis that's being reviewed?
That's correct.
What are we doing with HR to actively recruit and make that easier to hire? Because it's going to always constantly be a hard position from a talent perspective to fill.
That's correct. And part of that, we have a department now for sourcing and sourcing jobs. So, but part of that is the market analysis that has to be done this year, and we plan to bring it earlier to the board so that we can hopefully make some decisions and impact summer hiring and things like that as well.
And while I'm glad my colleagues asked about the facilities, because I can understand the benefits of moving it, but I also see from all of our campuses are ADA certified, but then you also get into our students who are medically fragile. They require a lot more equipment. to those classrooms, such as raise tables that can raise and lower, things of that nature that add a lot of extras. So is that looking to be on all campuses? So then we would have to sink cost into each campus for that?
No. Well, and let me give you two scenarios. First, our medically fragile population. That population of student we absolutely need specialized services for. We absolutely need to have centralized services for the reasons that you just mentioned. But understand too that at any day a student could show up at a campus who requires the use of a wheelchair for mobility.
Of course.
And who requires the table to lift, but who could be a gifted student but also have special needs. That child would be at their home campus, and we would take the supports to that child. We're always really looking at those types of needs at any campus when we have the need. But no, the facilities issue with addressing the needs of medically fragile, the programs that we have intact right now will stay intact.
Good.
For that population of students.
Good, and that makes sense, because I mean, ADA is the basics, but I think we go above and beyond many of our basics in campus. It makes it easier for everyone involved. For the student, it's safer. For the teachers, it's safer. Everything on that. My last question is on inclusion of behavior students that aren't on general curriculum that are on there. That comes into a big workers' comp situation. Those are very difficult positions. I don't know if that's C's program or which one it is, but our students that are, I don't want to say have very violent outbursts that can occur at times, is that planning to be inclusion, or how do we, what's the plan on that?
Yeah, well, the program right now, as it's structured, is a program that does already support students in a general education classroom. And understand, we still are under a mandate or requirement to always be looking to move children to that environment.
Right.
That classroom, the supports that are available there, are supports that can support in a gen ed classroom, and they currently do. For students who aren't ready for that, or for students who have episodes that causes us to need to pull them back in and do some retraining, we already have that in place, and we have the staff in place to address those needs. We work with every child as an individual, and we realize that there are children who do have behaviors that are sometimes unpredictable, but we don't have the luxury under our current law not to provide opportunities for them to access instruction in a gen ed environment. But what we always try to do is to maintain safety, and we always try to make sure that before we put a child in a situation, that child's ready for it. But again, we cannot always predict what happens. We just can respond to it and try to provide the supports and the structures necessary to prevent it if we can.
We don't expect you to predict, Ms. Long. And special ed is, it's one of the hardest things for everyone to get their hands around. There's a lot of rules, there's a lot of policies, it's a very litigious group, and so I think we always have to constantly keep our eye on it, constantly reform, change it, and modify to make it the best. One last question I think that popped up. Ms. Pena?
Actually, mine's not a question, it's more of a comment. I wanted to say that the evolution of the process of what we do for these students now has changed dramatically from the past. And I have a brother who is special needs, and so I can see the evolution and certainly appreciate the changes that have come. It takes special people to address this and the needs of our children, and I'm so grateful that we have this in place in AISD to supplement the educational needs of these children. So thank you for taking the helm on this. I appreciate everything that you all have done in this remarkable information that you've provided to us.
Thank you.
Well said, Ms. Pena. Ms. Long, thank you for all the hard work. You have a very difficult, tough job, rewarding job to get it done right in this district.
I love it,
so
sir.
we thank you for all your hard work on this and helping us grasp everything with special ed. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Long, not a lot get applause, but it may be because all the patients in the room are moving to the next agenda item that I think
Can I say one thing?
Sure, Dr. Rush.
I just want to say thank you to all of you children for sitting here for so very long and for being amazing, well-behaved children and courteous and kind. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good point, Dr. Reich. Ms. Rothwell, your 5 minutes will start. Please, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Cindy Rothwell. I would like to talk to you as an ex-student. I started at Hill in '69. As an ex-employee, I worked 12 and a half years with the special education at Arlington High, Hill, Corey, Larson, Bailey. I think that's it. I also would like to talk to you as a mother and as a grandmother that has students currently here in the district. I believe that what happened yesterday at Hill, and I don't know all the details and I'm not asking, but I think it is a big disservice to this district, this community, and to our kids, who we all try to help on a daily basis. This man knew over 600 kids and could go up to them and greet them knowing their name. I have been involved with this district. I have seen other people in this position. They could not do this. He genuinely cared about these kids. He genuinely cared about this district. He genuinely cared about this school. And I think you have really done a huge, huge disservice to this district and to these kids and to future kids that will be coming up and not having him there. I want to thank you for your time. And like I said, I've been involved with this district for a long, long time. I think you know my oldest daughter. I think y'all went to school together.
I can comment on that, yes, Ms. Rothwell.
Like I said, I've had students, I've had friends, I've had my daughters, I've got my grandkids, and I really do. I have never come and spoke at a meeting before, but I'm doing so today because I really do think this was a disservice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rothwell. Up next is Mr. Robert. Sir, I apologize if I mess up your last name. Kniezek? Kniezek. I was close. Thank you, sir. Welcome this evening.
Thank you, members of the board and Dr. Cavazos. I don't really have a prepared presentation, but I want to call your attention to something that I have a concern about. It relates to, I guess, well, the basic topic is perception of inappropriate behavior, and I'll explain that in a moment. My wife and I have been residents of Arlington in this district for almost 55 years. My children went to school here and some grandchildren. And of course, I still have an interest, even to the point of a few $1,000s in supporting your income. So I feel like I have a reason to speak up, even though I'm not, don't live in the particular district that the immediate problem kind of concerns. I work for a government contractor in the area for many years, and one of the guidelines that we were given was not only do you not engage in inappropriate behavior, but you want to also avoid the appearance of inappropriate behavior, and this is where I'm coming from. There's been an action on the part of the board recently that a lot of the people in this room are concerned about. And I believe the basic problem is that it's perceived as inappropriate behavior, that there may not be appropriate justification or basis for action that was taken. There's another aspect. They can address this a lot better than I can. But there's another aspect of it that I think we need to be conscious of, and that is that when there is at least a perception of inappropriateness, it doesn't have to be actually fact, but where it's perceived, this is really a fuel for those that propose to replace public education with vouchers. And I don't think any of us really want that to happen. I think that would be a big disservice to education in this country. So my plea is think about this as you go along, and it'd be real nice if we could all get together and be on the same page with the students and the parents and the teachers and the board. That's probably a wish that's probably not going to completely happen anyway, but at least strive toward that end. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Nizik. Up next is Julian Creamer. Hi, Julian. If you wouldn't mind, can I ask what grade you're in at Hill Elementary School?
6th grade.
Perfect. Thank you, Julian. Welcome, and your time begins right now.
Okay, I am the student council president at Hill Elementary. I would like to say how greatly the leadership has been over the years that I have been at Hill. It has enhanced my life and made my education exciting and engaging. I can honestly say that the leader at our school knew me and every single other class student on a personal level. We all feel a special connection to our leader and will miss him greatly. I think the hardest part for me and my classmates will be that we never got to give him one last hug and say goodbye. Thank you.
Julian, let me say thank you for that speech. You did a wonderful job this evening, so I appreciate it, and it's heard from our group, so thank you on that. A lot for a student to get up and speak, so we appreciate that. Up next is Mr. Jeff Knight. Good evening, Mr. Knight.
Hey, Bowie. Haven't seen you since we were kids.
It's been a while. Good evening, sir.
All right. Well, obviously the topic at hand. I'm a little better with prepared, so I'm just going to read from what I wrote before the meeting. I wanted to take a moment to express my disappointment with the recent change in leadership at Hill Elementary. It's come to my attention that an outside organization was able to exert pressure on both the district and the school and lead to the change in leadership. I really want to make clear how damaging this pressure is, and allowing it to poison the minds of our kids is completely unacceptable. If we give the impression that something is uncomfortable or difficult to address, that it should be stamped out and eliminated from the curriculum, what kind of message are we sending to all of our students? In many ways, it reminds me of other situations in history where a larger, more influential body held sway over a smaller democratic body in order to push an agenda, regardless of the cost to those it affected. If we're going to sweep portions of our history under the rug because they're deemed offensive or not palatable, I think we may find quickly that we're not able to teach world or American history anymore. Our history is what gives us our identity as Americans. Good or bad, we're all shaped and created by it, and I want to make sure that everyone on the board realizes what a significant loss to the district, school, staff, students, and parents have suffered at the expense of being politically correct. We should set better example for our kids. Otherwise, situations such as we find ourselves embroiled in now will continue at an ever-increasing and exponential rate, securing a losing future for all of our students. We have lost an educator in every sense of the word. Inspiring young minds isn't an easy task, and finding someone that has the level of dedication and the willingness to put in the time and care that it takes that our previous leader did on a daily basis, I can only hope this massive hole can be filled in some small way. As before the meeting, I talked to the general counsel, and he advised that if any parents have any wish to follow up further, I guess they can go on the AISD website, and I think it's local GF policy is what they're looking for, to call a meeting with the superintendent in order to facilitate their feelings on the matter. I think this entire episode just really illustrated how our school boards stand behind their fail to stand behind educators, and they give in to curry political favor. I think this posturing is going to win out every time at the loss of our students. And finally, on a personal note, I wanted to remind everybody about the upcoming 2015 elections. We can replace the board as easily as it can be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Knight, and Dr. Vassos, I think you'd be welcome a meeting with the parents, so we would appreciate that. Next, we'll move on to the next agenda item under Superintendent's report. Dr. Vassos.
Thank you, President Hogg, and we'd like to share some information about the district and some events that we've had recently. The Martin Luther King Jr. weekend was celebrated this in Arlington, and we had a lot of our students participate in this. I do want to congratulate the board for receiving the Advancing the Dream of Education Award at the Martin Luther King Celebration Committee. We'll wait.
Dr. Vassos, would you hold on just a second? If you guys would, please, just so we can conduct the meeting, talk in the lobby, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Vassos.
Okay. Next, our Career Technology Education Department had a well-organized course fair at the PDC, and it was well-attended, where parents and students were able to learn about all the opportunities that our Career Tech program offers. There were a lot of displays, but probably the most impressive part of all of that was where our students were demonstrating what they were learning for all the general public to see, and that was really good to see for our students. The second annual Pastoral Luncheon, I think that's Dr. Reich there, was held at the PDC, and we had great success. We had over 60 church leaders participating to give us feedback about how they can help, and we give them feedback about the needs that we have in our district. They also heard a bond update, and we encourage them to continue to be engaged. I think our partnership continues to grow in our district. In January, we had the opportunity to present. I want to thank Cindy Powell, Michael Hill, and Leslie Johnson. They presented with me on a session that included how to successfully put together a bond package and the work that it takes in the district. And it was well received at the Midwinter Conference. Last week we had a memorable evening as we celebrated officially the Outstanding Board of the Year. We had representatives from throughout the community. I want to thank TASA Executive Director Johnny Veselka, who came from Austin to present the award. And we are very much continue to celebrate this because it is a year-long honor that lasts the whole year. So congratulations to the board again. Our latest Parent University was well attended, and I want to thank Aaron Perales. I'm glad you're still here. He did a great job on the Parent University at Lamar High School, showing different sessions on being college and career ready. I think every time we do a Parent University, it continues to grow, and I think that's a testament to the work that all the staff puts into that. And I know as interacting with the parents that they really appreciate getting hands-on information, and if they come to the Parent University, they get, you know, answers right away to their questions, so that's great. The process of forming our Fine Arts Dual Language Academies and our meetings were held this week to have parent meetings and information. I think you see some students engaged in some fine arts there, but we had good attendance and did a presentation about what is to come in our Fine Arts Dual Language Academies, and I want to thank Dr. Wirtz for his efforts and leading a lot of that, and Leslie and everybody else involved. I can't name everyone, but did a great job on those presentations. We have one more informational meeting, 6:30 to 8 at the PDC on Monday. Applications are due Friday, February the 13th, as Dr. Reich pointed out earlier. And we'll have another opportunity for them to learn about that. Wednesday morning, we had the opportunity to congratulate students during our National Signing Day in AISD throughout the district. 10 different sports were recognized in the signing ceremony. There were signings in baseball, boys and girls basketball, football, soccer, softball, swimming, tennis, track and field, volleyball, and wrestling. Congratulations to all those students that participated in that. That concludes my report.
I'm laughing. I get cut out of the picture there. I'm right off to the side. It's like a
That concludes it.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. At this time, we'll move. The picture suddenly looked better, huh? Suddenly, so Ms. Pena, quit laughing at that. Next, we'll move to board reports. Ms. Sullins.
Thank you, President Hogg. I wanted to let the community know that starting tomorrow, the board will be beginning to accept recommendations for the naming of new facilities. You can log on to AISD.net to see the application. When a facility is named, it shall be to honor individuals who have made significant contributions to the district or those who shall lend prestige and honor and respect to an institution of learning. While the recommendation process will be ongoing, we'll continue to collect names over time. The board may review and vote on names as early as March. So we welcome you to log on, tune in, and submit names of people that you would like to see on names on buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullins. I think the key on that is it's a running, constant, open, ongoing process. So thank you, Ms. Sullins. Ms. Mays.
Thank you. Just wanted to key in on the fund for the 3-day event for the MLK events. Enjoyed every single one of the events, all 3 nights, kind of tired afterwards, but got to bring my children along, so very exciting. Also attended the first FFC meeting, our Futures Financial Committee. Thanks to those 20-plus people who are volunteering to step up and do work and make recommendations to us. The Arlington Signing Days, always fun. Hopefully some people got to see some of the pictures out there on Facebook. Some were very exciting. And I also want to say that the Arlington Education Foundation is having their Six Flags Day private party. Hopefully y'all got to attend that last year. If not, what a great opportunity for an organization that has distributed over $1.2 million in grants to our teachers for use in their classroom. That day is April the 17th from 6 to 11, but even more exciting is from February today until the 28th, if you purchase your ticket for $20, your school, as you designate, will receive $5 from that $20. So what a way to give back to your school from being able to purchase something for a fun day. So I just want to put that out there, Arlington Education Foundation, their Six Flags Private Day event, April the 17th from 6 to 11.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Fays. In the picture you're referring to of signing day, I think you're referring to our student athlete who was 6'11", taking a picture with Ms. Pena, who's not 6'11". Ms. Pena, I wasn't going to say how tall you were. I was referring that you weren't 6'11". I think you were close, but you were not there. So he definitely walked by and shook all of our hands, and he was tall. We were proud of him going to Kansas State on a basketball scholarship. So, Mr. Barron, that's a great picture if no one's seen it of Miss Pena and the student athletes. So, it's a great one, Mr. Barron.
Anyway, I too enjoyed the MLK events. The CBOC meeting with Dan Malone as the chief of that thing. This is the new CBOC that'll run for the next 5 years. Arlington to Austin, where we met all our legislators and got our picture taken on the floor. Parent University, I just add one thing, that the next one is May 2nd, and the location is to be announced. So, like was mentioned, come on out. It's great information, and you get a free donut. I represented the board at the All-City Band concert at Bowie High School the other night. It was really great. The kids are just awesome. Financial Futures Committee had its first meeting the other night. Tony Pompa is the chair of that. And National Signing Day was really awesome. So many guys. I think it was 65 or 68 student athletes who signed that day. It was fun because they were talking about how it just was going to burn up the fax machines because getting those documents back to the coaches that receive them. Good show. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Barron. And last thing I would say is recognize one of our great donors for the district who does a lot for many campuses, Robert Jordan with RJ Construction. Good to see you this evening, Mr. Jordan, and his two sons there. Good to see you guys also. Oh, we've got one more light. Ms. Pena.
I was going to make a report. Yeah, I should have put the picture up is what I should have done. But just because he didn't mention it, I'll mention it. I am 5 feet tall, so standing next to an athlete that's 6'11" was quite a difference. I think my head just went above his belt. And so that tells you the significance and the difference. But he happens to be named Dante Williams. It's on our website, and he will be attending Kansas State University on a basketball scholarship. I asked him that, and then he looked at me and said, basketball. I said, okay, I didn't want to make any assumptions that, for your height, but he seemed I asked him if he had siblings that were as tall as him. He said no, but he does have, I think, 6 brothers and 3 sisters.
Wow.
And he's the tallest of them all, and he is not as old as many of them. So that was a really neat experience. I gave him my own interview. That was one of the events that I attended, but I attended many of the events that everyone else attended. It's been a busy time since the last meeting that we had, and it's been quite a while. And it just goes to show that there are so many things that are going on in our school district that we all attend, but we can't attend everything because I don't know how our superintendent does it. He's at almost everything. He doesn't report near as much as where he goes. But it's a big effort.
He's cloned.
Yeah, he must be cloned. But it is a big effort on our part to trying to attend everything. So sometimes there'll only be 2 or 3 of us at different events if the event is held at the same time on the same day. But I just wanted to add that in there, and if I have a chance, maybe at the next meeting, I'll have that picture put up. But those who are my Facebook friends have seen the picture. And it was put out there because I wanted everybody else to enjoy the picture.
Ms. Pena, did Dante ask if you had a basketball scholarship?
No.
Okay, I was just checking.
He'd probably have to lift me up.
Okay, we're going to move on. Dr. Reich, any follow-ups for the secretary?
Yes, to bring back a BYOD or BYOT update as requested by Mr. Barron.
Perfect. Thank you. It is now 11 o'clock on the dot. We will not be going into closed session, so we're adjourned.